and returned back to India and started his own biomedical startup, a pharmaceutical company. He spoke on the innovation in drug discovery research with special emphasis for veterinarians. And now we are here for the second international webinar. We'll be hearing you three. And for the information of all the audience, I will tell that we have planned the third webinar on the third international webinar series on 20th October 2020 at the same time. And we have on that day Dr. Srinivasulu Killari, who will speak on the personal experience in a professional journey, an interactive session. Dr. Harshavardhan Tippareddy, who will speak on the microbiological quality and safety of poultry meat, and Dr. Kavita Kongara from New Zealand. She will speak on a glance at veterinary anatomy, clinical implications. Dr. Harshavardhan Tippareddy is from the University of Georgia, Athens. Dr. Srinivasulu Killari is from Singapore. Dr. Kavita Kongara is from Massey University, New Zealand. So let us start. Our associate dean, Dr. Ravi sir, has joined. Sir, I request you to please make your opening remarks.
Good morning, one and all. I'm very happy that the second webinar this is on schedule, and it is going on as per our schedule. And as I already told, the efforts, we highly appreciate the efforts put in by Dr. Kishore and his team for making this event. The first one was already a successful one, and this one will also be a successful one. There is no doubt about that. And I invite all the participants and the today's speakers, Dr. Hari, Dr. Serian, and Dr. Nidhi Rajput. And I hope your knowledge and your experiences will enrich our students in particular, and also will contribute to the knowledge base of our faculty. I once again express my gratitude to Dr. Kishore and his team for all the participants and for today's speakers who have accepted our invitation and spared their valuable time to be with us, to share their knowledge with us. I now hand over the mic to Dr. Kishore to conduct the proceedings. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. So let me directly go into the session. I'll first introduce the first speaker for today's second international webinar of the international webinar series being organized by N.T.R. College of Veterinary Science, Gannavaram. I request Thomas to please spotlight our first speaker, Hari Attagarla. Dr. Hari S. Attagarla graduated from N.T.R. College of Veterinary Sciences, Acharya Enjiranga Agricultural University in 2004, which is now the Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University, after we have bifurcated from ANGREAU and formed our own veterinary university. After graduation, he briefly worked at ICR KVK as a veterinarian, and then worked as a veterinarian in the animal husbandry department. He moved to the USA in 2007 to pursue higher studies, where he did his master's in biology from Marshall University, West Virginia, and worked in the field of regenerative medicine. While pursuing his MS, he was awarded the Summer Thesis Dissertation Research Award 2007. He was a graduate research assistant during his MS. He graduated with an MS in 2009. He obtained his North American veterinary license to practice in the United States in 2010. During this process, he volunteered at various animal clinics and shadowed multiple veterinarians. He started his full-time job as a veterinarian at Tri-State Animal Hospital, West Virginia. After working for a few years, he moved to Becker Animal Hospital, a 24/7 emergency hospital in Texas. Later on, he moved to Banfield Pet Hospital in 2014 and has been working with them since then. He is currently licensed in the state of Texas. From the time he was licensed in the USA, he has performed thousands of surgeries orthopedic, soft tissue, ocular, dentistry, and in multiple species like mice, rats, guinea pigs, rabbits, cats, and dogs. His motto is to see happy wagging tails and smiling clients. Apart from all this, I would like to introduce Dr. Hari Attegarla as the first alumnus of the N.T.R. College of Veterinary Science. In this college we started this with the 1998 batch, and Dr. Hari Attegarla is a proud alumnus of this 1998 batch from this college. And we are proud to connect him with all the alumni, not only of this college, but also of the entire university. Now over to you, Dr. Hari Attegarla.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, and good morning, all the professors and faculty and my co-veterinarians and all the students. Like Dr. Kishore sir was saying, I graduated in 2004, and I just Kishore sir informed me about this. I felt it's a very good way to actually interact with the current students as an alumnus of that Gannavaram Veterinary College. As an alumnus, I'm very thankful to all the professors who made me what I am right now. I would also like to thank, on this occasion, I would also like to thank all the veterinarians who had helped and shaped my career come this far. So let me share the screen. Are you able to see my screen, sir?
Not yet.
Not yet, sir.
I'm sorry for the delay. It's sharing now, sir?
Not visible.
No, sir. Are you getting the tab of share screen, sir?
Let me try, sir. I have a Zoom app downloaded, but
I have already made him co-host, sir, so he can share the screen.
Yeah, Dr. Hari Attegarla,
yes, sir. Yeah.
I have put up the
Okay.
PPT. I have shared from my side.
How can I share it from my?
I shared already.
Okay.
Dr. Hari, I shared the screen.
Yes, sir.
You are
Yes, sir.
able to
Yeah.
see?
Yes, I'm seeing.
You all are able to see the screen I shared?
Sir, Malad is Kishore, sir. It's not visible. It's not visible.
I too shared the same PPT.
No, no, only your image is visible, sir.
I think.
Sir, now you share the screen, sir.
You please click on that share icon, that green one, no? Green. Do you find
Yes, sir,
that in
it's
your...
asking.
That green arrow, that share is there, no? Now it's, we put it on the PowerPoint mode.
Hari,
Yeah, can you see it now, sir?
I shared the
Yes, sir.
screen.
I think you have to minimize that. It is,
Hari,
Yes, sir. Can you see it now, sir?
I shared the screen. It is visible.
No, sir, no, it is not visible.
No, sir.
Hari, the PPT you sent, I
Yeah.
shared. I am able to
No.
see, but
Now it is visible, sir. You keep it in PowerPoint mode.
Dr. Hari,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm not able to.
Is this- no, I have shared the screen
Now
with
it
the
is
PPT
visible.
you sent me. Is it visible?
It is visible, sir. It is visible.
Yeah, Hari, I have shared the PPT you sent me. So you
Yes,
please
sir.
go ahead. You advise
Sure.
me when to change this slide.
Sure.
I do accordingly.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks so much,
please
everybody,
start.
for your patience. I know it's a little bit of hassle to get this started, and thank you for actually sharing this, sir. So basically, let me get into the actual topic. It's just like veterinary licensing for foreign veterinary graduates in the USA, and it's just an informal presentation of how I traveled all the way from Gannavaram to the state where I am right now, Texas. In 2004, and before graduating, I was visiting one of the campuses in Hyderabad, the N.T.R Agriculture University campus in Rajendra Nagar. I was asking one senior at that point of time to guide me, or like at least get some of his information as to how I can pursue my small animal medicine practice in the US. At that point of time, the senior told me, like, it's my personal experience. The senior told me it is very difficult to actually clear the board exams, and also it's very expensive. I admit it is difficult. I admit it is expensive, but it is not impossible. The way he worded was like, it's next to impossible. And it's not next to impossible. If I can achieve it, anybody in this audience can achieve it. Just you have to have that passion to pursue it, and an enthusiasm to excel in it. So basically, this will be just my journey of how I pursued all these licensing exams and stuff. We can go on to the next one. So let me see. I think can you go to the next screen, sir? So So why do we need an equivalence? Basically, we all graduated from accredited veterinary college, and we all pass through all our exams and stuff, and why exactly we need an equivalence here. So basically, anybody who's practicing in this country, like in any country for that matter, like, are governed by those local laws. And especially for somebody that is practicing in the US, you have to have a benchmark of quality. Like every here should have an equal platform, whether you graduate from India, whether you graduate from Kenya, or whether you graduate from say the UK. You are supposed to have a same standard of, you are supposed to deliver the same standard of care whenever it comes to delivering care to pets and the clientele. So basically, that's the reason why you have a an equivalence test. And coming to the next slide, sir. Coming to the pathways for international veterinarians to pursue their equivalence exams, there are two different ways where you can go for it. The first one is governed by the AVMA. AVMA is the American Veterinary Medical Association, and that governs how everything functions as far as veterinary education goes in the country. And there are, of course, state boards, like each and every state has their own rules and regulations and stuff. And the first pathway is ECFVG. To elaborate, it is an educational commission for foreign veterinary graduates. And this is the path I took, and this is the path most of the veterinarians also, foreign veterinarians also take, as much as I am aware of. And this, I'll explain this in more details and stuff. And the second pathway is called PAVE. It's a program for assessment of veterinary education equivalence. This is only recognized in a few states, as opposed to the ECFVG, which is recognized in all the states. It's really great to be doing something or pursuing something that is recognized in all the states, as opposed to being recognized only in a few states. Earlier, back in the day, when I was pursuing this equivalence exams and stuff, it was recognized in much less states. Now it says 45 states based on the latest information I got from the website. It says 45 states. It's a good number actually, but earlier in the day it used to be much lower. And when you're trying to get an equivalence, it's better to have equivalence in most of the states than rather than being restricted to a few states that only recognize foreign veterinary graduates in few states. So you will be geographically restricted to only be practicing in certain states that were eligible. And good thing that PAVE is actually recognized in 45 states currently at this point of time. And let me go into more details. If you can go to the next one, sir. So just to elaborate, I'll just go over brief steps for ECFVG. They are registration and proof of graduation. Like basically, you have to register like you are a student of AVMA listed college, veterinary college in any part of the world, and you have to register. You have to submit the proof of graduation. Like they get information directly from the university, and they will contact the university, get your information and stuff. Next is the English language ability. That's how everybody communicates with the clients and stuff. So they have to know your English language skills, whether you are able to converse effectively with your client, deliver client education whenever it's necessary, and all that good stuff. And the next step is basic and clinical sciences knowledge. Here, they test your basic sciences knowledge. It's something like anatomy, physiology. They test your knowledge at in these levels. The test patterns and everything, you will be, you can get more details from the websites and stuff. I don't want to go into very minor details of the test patterns and stuff. And you can get more details online, but I just want to skim through everything. So, and the last part of the major portion of this CPE portion is the clinical skills assessment. Everybody has to pass certain clinical skills that are basic required skills, and they are on par with students that graduate from the 4-year veterinary degree program here in the US. So it's just a basic clinical skills assessment, and I will go into more details in each and every step in the next slide. Next slide, please. So with the first step, you are supposed to register, and in my case, they actually, when I registered, they contacted the Acharya Enjiranga Agriculture University. At that point of time, they get my credentials from the university straight away, and it can take a couple of months, and it helps a lot. If you're already in this direction you're pursuing, it helps a lot to get things rolling at the other end of the globe or other end in your university at this point in time, to make sure the ball starts rolling. When somebody is trying to get some information from here, there should be some kind of processing at the other end, and as long as it's smooth, things can speed up. Certain times it can take months, so that can delay certain times as to how quick you can get all this streamlined. And also recent addition is that they also require an additional documentation. It's just saying a surgical skills documentation, like how much of a surgical experience the candidate has who is wanting to pursue the licensing pathway in the US. So basically the surgical experience says so and so person, the concerned CPE can, or the concerned doctor who is willing to get his license here in the USA should get a documentation saying that he has been a primary surgeon in at least one major surgical procedure in a small animal, and has at least been an assistant surgeon in a few of them, few additional procedures as well. So basically it's to test how proficient are you in your surgical skills. You can get that certificate from any of our professors or wherever you work, anywhere in the country or anywhere abroad where you work. And that will, that's also a mandatory requirement. When I was pursuing this, I never had that, but things keep changing every day, and ECFG updates their regulations, updates the guidelines based on the need and stuff. So this is the requirement that you have in the document as well. And the second step is English language abilities. Like I was saying earlier, you are supposed to take the TOEFL or the IELTS to demonstrate English language skills in all these sections of respective tests. This again, there are certain exemptions. Just make sure you get current recommendations and current rules at that point whenever you plan to take this test. Whenever I was taking this test, like 11 years ago, I didn't have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS specifically for the ECFG purpose. I had to take it for performing calibration and stuff, but I never had to take the TOEFL and IELTS for the ECFG purpose, because there was a clause that people who ever graduated in an English medium secondary education, higher education, they can get an exemption. So that's how I bypassed this TOEFL and IELTS stage. And the next step is the basic and clinical sciences exam. Like I was saying earlier, it tests your knowledge in preliminary or preclinical or basic sciences in veterinary medicine, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. So make sure you are thorough in those subjects before you take your tests and stuff. The good thing nowadays is there are testing centers all over the world. I took this test here in the US, but nowadays there are testing centers all over the world. And I have come to know that many international students from across the world are taking this test before they even come to the US. If you are planning to pursue your career in this direction, I would recommend you look into this aspect before even coming into into US, and you can take these tests while you are in your doing your BVSC over there. And there are different centers. You can just look at their websites and stuff, and there are different centers that actually you can take this test at. Approximately the test is like $220, and it's a mandatory requirement. Can we go on to the next one, sir, please? So now the actual crux of the CPE or the ECFEG program is called CPE. It's basically they test your clinical skills. You take the test for like 3 to 4 days of 3 to 4 days of testing time, and each section lasts for like 3 to 4 hours. So it's a 3 to 4 day testing window, and they test you in different aspects of veterinary medicine that are basic requirements for somebody who intends to go into practicing veterinary medicine in the US, not in North America. And for this, again, there is a manual of administration that ECFEG publishes and updates each and every year. And that is your Bible. That is the Bible. And they clearly mention as to what skills will you be tested in, and what kind of a assessments will you be going through, and what is a major flaw, what is a minor flaw. Like say if you are causing some kind of a hazard that is hazardous for an animal, at that point of time it will be a major flaw. Let's say you are not supposed to control bleeding when you're performing a surgery. It's a major flaw, and they stop you right then and there, and you don't have a second chance. So the manual of administration is the Bible for a CPE. So basically, anybody interested in this pathway, that's your Bible. Stick to it. Stick to it. There's no alternative. Just stick to it straight away, and it should be an easy path. And again, in this, there are different sections. And as far as preparing for CPE, you can do it on your own, or there are certain locations where you can take externships or internships and stuff. They are paid externships, they are free externships and stuff. And also, as far as the helpful nature of the veterinarians here, many of the veterinarians I spoke to, like not many, but in fact I should correct myself, everybody who I spoke to is welcomes you with an open arms. As long as you have the zeal, everybody is welcoming you. I shadowed multiple veterinarians. I've been at multiple clinics and stuff. I went on farm calls with like large animal veterinarians, with bovine veterinarians, and everybody is so welcoming. So you can, it depends upon how much of an effort you want to put into it. And I also worked at a small animal practice as well, and that helped me immensely. I was shadowing the veterinarian, I was following them on a case-by-case basis. I was helping them in surgeries. So that helps a lot. And so there are different sections in here. You have your anesthesia section where they, the examiner tests your skills and how safely you can perform an anesthesia on a canine pet. So basically they will see how you calculate your drug dosages, what kind of fluid calculations you give, or what kind of fluid dosings you give, and how you induce your pet, how you intubate your pet, how you maintain anesthesia for a safe surgical procedure. Whenever you are doing an anesthetic procedure, another prospective CPE candidate will be doing a surgery on the same dog. So when he is performing it, there will be live fluctuations. Heart rate can go up, blood pressure can go down. Your skills will be like how you maintain those parameters and how you maintain the pet in a surgical kind of anesthesia. So then you have your equine practice. Again, they give you different settings as to the examiner comes up to you with a clinical case. You have certain techniques that you should demonstrate. So depends upon whatever is in the manual of administration, go by that, strictly go by that, and whatever is needed at that point of time, everything will be in there. And again, you have your food animal practice, same as the case with food animal practice as well. You have a clinical case. So the examiner will describe you, this is so-and-so with my cow, heifer, whatever, and then you will answer accordingly, and you will be graded according to the way you handle the case, like what kind of a diagnostic approach you're taking, what kind of treatment plans are you building up, what is your final conclusion, and how you handle the case. That's how you, so basically communication is very, very important at this point of time as well. Then you also have necropsy, like how you perform necropsy on a dog, and what are the organs you collect and all this stuff. Then you also have radiographic positioning. So they give you a pet, like they require these views on a dog, or they require this organ for study, and you should determine like what kind of kVp and milliamp settings you should be using, and how you take your x-rays in a safe manner, avoid radiation and all that. And again, that's a major flaw. If you yourself are exposed to the primary beam, it's a major flaw. And all that will be discussed in the manual of administration. And you have your small animal medicine here. Again, in small animal medicine, it's the same thing. You have some techniques, you have a clinical case that the examiner himself will actually come up to you and like, say, my dog is having vomiting, diarrhea, whatever is the situation. They'll be discussing that, and you should be competent enough, and you have a limited scope of time. You should be competent enough to come up with a diagnostic plan, come up with differential diagnoses, come up with some diagnoses, and like give out a treatment plan at that point in time based on whatever results are provided. And again, surgery, like how we were briefly discussing about surgery earlier, and you are supposed to do an ovarian hysterectomy on a dog. So that is like it's an open book basically. So you know you are supposed to do an ovarian hysterectomy. They evaluate you basing on how you prepare yourself, like surgically, how you scrub yourself, how you gown up and all that, how you prepare the dog, like for an aesthetic procedure, and how you perform the procedure. Say you glove up and then you do this, you're out of the game. So this is very important over there. And how you actually perform the procedure in a safe manner, like you should be able to control bleeding, you should be able to identify the organs that you're supposed to identify during the procedure. And approximately the fees at this point in time is around $7,600. That's quite a bit of money. Definitely agree that, but it's definitely worth it. And as far as the CPE is concerned, you're supposed to pass at least 4 of the, when I was taking the CPE, I had 6 sections in there. You're at least supposed to pass 4 of the sections to be able to take the other sections on a step-by-step basis. And the hard part with CPE is you have people watching you right there. So in addition to your skills, you also should be having some test-taking strategies as well. So basically, somebody's watching you. Don't get afraid. You are the best. Think that you are the best. You can do it. You've done this before, and it's just a different setting. Just be calm, be quiet, and you can do it. It's not there. I'm not asking you to do something different at that point in time. It's just everything per the manual of administration, and you're supposed to do that. So test-taking strategies are also very important in all these things, and that's a major part of it actually. Like how calm you are in a stressful situation plays a major role. You have a dog that's bleeding and you're not able to find the bleeding vessel and you're not able to ligate it, then your blood pressure starts to build up. How calm you stay, that plays a very major role in the CPE at this point in time. Can you go on to the next slide, sir? So when I was taking my CPE, I only had 6 sections. Necropsy and radiographic positioning were in one section. We also had microbiology and parasitology at that point of time. And coming to a different pathway, like I was telling you earlier, it's also, you can also get your licensing as well, but it's a different pathway, different way to achieve the same goal. And here also it's an initial registration application, $375. You have to get your English language proficiency similar to BCSE like we were discussing. And we have something called a qualifying science examination here. And the fees is $1,500. And it is similar to the BCSE we were talking about. It tests your skills or knowledge in basic science subjects, so biochemistry, physiology, and those skills. Anybody from the first year itself, like get your basics straight. That way you have them forever with you. And in this pathway, the good thing is you have a plan called you can go along with the 4th year DVM students. That's how they evaluate your clinical experience. So the next step of PAVE is like you have an evaluated clinical experience program. So you travel along with 4th year veterinary students in their rotation. So you have like different rotations like small animal, large animal, equine practice and all that. You travel along with them. Each rotation lasts like a couple of weeks, and based on the rotation, you will be traveling along with the students, and you will be taught in the vet schools in the US, and you will be going along with them. That's a very good thing. You'll be traveling along with the students here, and there are certain schools that actually offer the PAVE program. There are certain schools that offer it, and you are supposed to contact the school. You're supposed to apply to the school. Once you get accepted, there is a fee. It's around $40,000 in one of the universities that I looked up in the Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. That charges around $40,000 for your clinical rotations over there. And in addition to the $40,000, you will be having your living expenses like your housing and your food and your travel and all this stuff. So you approximately, this is what you're looking at. I would say another $20,000 maybe, approximately. And after you go through your rotations, you also have the option for electives. Say you're very interested in ophthalmology, you can take an elective at that point for just a couple of weeks. Say you're interested in ultrasound, you can take an elective. You get an option to choose some electives, and you can do extra rotations in that, and you can pursue your passion later on if you're really interested in that. And that's a very good pathway, but like I said, it is only, the PAVE is only accepted in 45 states at this point of time. I hope it the other states do start accepting that. And it is a little bit expensive, but it's a very streamlined procedure. So with the ECFEG and the PAVE, we actually an international graduate got equivalence. But what after getting an equivalence exam? So then we can go on to the next slide, which so can we go on to the next slide? Yeah. So these are tests that everybody that is practicing veterinary medicine in the US has to take to be able to do it. So you have the NAVLE, which is North American Veterinary Licensing Exam. And again, this, there are testing centers across the world nowadays, which is a very good thing to be having. So you don't need to, I know people that fly all the way from, they used to fly all the way from India to take these tests here. But nowadays it avoids the hassle, it avoids the budget and stuff. And you can take the tests in different parts of the world. You don't need to fly all the way here to actually take these tests. And it is around $690 for the test at this point in time. And after you pass the NAVLE, then you're supposed to take the state board exam. Like whichever state you want to practice in, you have to take a state board exam in that particular state. Say, I took my state board exams in 3 different states. I currently only have a license in 1 state though. And any state, their exams vary, the way they test varies and stuff. So basically, you're supposed to stick to the laws in that state. Like every state has a veterinary board, and they control the licensing in that state. They control how you practice and stuff. Some general guidelines and stuff. And each and every board exam has its own fee and stuff. I'm not exactly sure how much every board charges, but at least in Texas, it's around $520 or so for taking your test. And these testing windows also vary per state. Certain states, you can take the test at any point of time, and they offer internet-based tests. I'm sorry, and certain tests, they only have a testing window, like say a couple of months in a year, or like a few months, few days in a year, something like that. And that varies from state to state where you want to practice. And after you get your state board licensing exams, then you have continuing education. And to maintain proper standard of care, to be learning new techniques, or to be learning new, to be developing or brushing your skills every year, you have to take continuing education every year. And again, this is regulated by the board, the state board. Certain states have 15 hours requirement, certain states 20, whatever the state requirement is. And you have to maintain that. And in order to get your license, in order to renew your license, you're supposed to get your CE hours every year. Every year you're supposed to get your CE hours, and there are some great conferences all over the country that you can actually go and meet boarded specialists. Say if you're interested in dentistry, and if you want to do surgical extractions, you have a live cadaver in front of you. You have a dentist, like a board certified dentist, that will be training you, so you can learn from the best in the field. And that's what continuing education is all about. Can you go to the next one, sir? So great. At this point of time, we have finished all our licensing. We have finished the state board requirements, and we are all set to practice. So what opportunities do students have? So there are many opportunities that students can pursue once they have their ECFEG license, or like an equivalence license. It's like a passport to the entire world. You can practice any other major developed nations. Like once you have your ECFEG license, if you want to go to Australia, yes, you are welcome to. And opportunities, once you clear your boards, you can practice as a small animal veterinarian, large animal veterinarian, wherever you want to. You can go into academics. You can pursue further studies, like you can do your PhD, you can do your residency. Residency is like an MBSc program there in India. And you have different residencies, and it's like an extra 3 years of training under whichever specialization you take. Experts in those fields will be getting your residencies and stuff. And you can also go into internships as well. Internships are like a shorter duration, usually like a 1 year duration and stuff like that. You can also go into research. We've seen Dr. Suresh Kosala last time. And if you can go into research, and you can also go into industry. And many alumni from Gannavaram who are in the research industry, who pursued further academics, who are working as small animal veterinarians, who are in the industry. I'm not sure if anybody has gone into residency from Gannavaram yet, but there are definitely students from Tirupati campus and Hyderabad campus that have pursued residencies further. Even I was offered a residency position in lab and medicine, which I did not pursue, but residency is also a good option as well. You can also go into industry as well. With industry, there are many folks from our university who are working for Merck, who are working for Elanco and like major pharmaceutical companies and stuff. And you can also go as faculty members as well. Like with DVM, you can work in community colleges and stuff. And if you have your PhD, you are more than welcome to apply to universities and stuff. And there are many assistant professors and faculty working from Gannavaram who are faculty at this point of time, which is a great achievement as well. And can you go on to the next slide, sir? Yeah, I think we went up, go down further. Yeah, so coming to specialties, like I was mentioning earlier, the different specialties at this point of time, there are 22 specialties recognized by the AVMA, and wherever you are interested in, you can opt that field. Of course, this is very competitive, but you have your job satisfaction at the end of the day. There's different specialties like anesthesia, dentistry, internal care, emergency medicine, internal medicine, lab animal medicine, dermatology, ophthalmology, you have your portal sciences, pathology, a bunch of specialties. If you're interested in pursuing that, great, it's a great career, and definitely we can go into any of the specialties. Can we go on to the next one, sir? So it's a great point of time. Any pursuing a veterinarian into this field, it's a great point of time to come into this, because I was in the US when there was a housing crash in 2007, 2008, and even in the pandemic situation, many people are being furloughed, many people are being laid off, but veterinary profession has always been good. I don't say, I always want to say it's always been good, never has a recession hit until now. And it's always been a great profession to be in. It's always great to be having some kind of a security at the end of the day. And coming to how much will you be paid after you clear all these exams and stuff, going by the BLS statistics, which is a Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average wage in median wage in 2019 was around 95,000, which is a very, very good pay considering the US average pay in the US. And you also have your quality of life. You can choose how many days you want to work. You have, of course, you have your visa restrictions and stuff if you're on work visa. But you can work. There are many veterinarians who work 4 days a week. There are many veterinarians who work 5 days a week. There are veterinarians who work 6 days a week. And I work like 4.5 days a week personally. So you have your own personal time, you have your own family time, and you have your work time, and you can definitely demarcate between your personal life and your professional life. And you always have a job satisfaction at the end of the day, like whatever you're doing, when you come home, you feel like, oh, I did this great thing today. That's what you're supposed to have, and that's what everybody loves to have. And when you see a happy client talking to you, or when you see a happy dog coming to you after a previous visit, it's always a great satisfaction to you. And that is obviously a great thing. And one more thing is standard of care. Especially when you're practicing medicine here, you're supposed to deliver a standard of care. Like they compare what is the standard of care, and you're supposed to stick to those guidelines. Here we practice like evidence-based medicine. We run some diagnostics for almost everything unless the client declines. And based on the diagnostics, we come up with differential diagnoses, we come up with diagnostic, we come up with the diagnoses, and we come up with the treatment plan, and we educate the clients. So basically, major part of our role is also client education. Unfortunately, I wish my pets could talk, but it's a client that I have to communicate with on a regular basis. And client education plays a major role, and especially being veterinarians, we are in a very important role. We are in between we play a major role in like controlling human health, especially with all this zoonotic diseases, with the pandemics going on. We have a very, very major role, and it's a great profession to be in. It's a very, very great profession to be in. And there is also the One Health going on, and it's a great way that we can be part of that, and it's a great profession to be in. I love to be in this field, and there are different career opportunities. We have heard some two excellent speakers last week, and both are pursuing their passions in their respective chosen fields. It's a great profession to be in, and any of the students who are interested in pursuing this field, they have any specific questions, they're more than welcome to chat in the group chat we have. You can talk to Dr. Kishore sir regarding that. If you have any further questions or getting into that chat, he can guide you more regarding how people can contact straight away like clinical veterinarians practicing like me in the US. And at this point of time, I think it's almost 50 minutes into the talk. I'm open to any questions at this point of time if you have any at this point of time.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. You have really given very good information with respect to the ECFVG, PAVE and NAVLI. And now I request my co-organizing secretary, Dr. Iqbal, to please conduct the question and answer session. And we have only 10 minutes at our disposal.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for a very nice talk and informative ones to the students. So there are two questions. The first one is that how far do you think that our program of BVS and AH in India, it should pick up to reach up to the level of DVM? There is actually a proposal also in VCI to change the name of the degree to DVM. So how far do you think the standards has to be raised and facilities has to be raised in different veterinary colleges to reach up to that standards?
That's a great question, sir, and thank you. And coming to the actual question, like we have great faculty, we have some good facilities, but the problem is we don't have hands-on. I don't say we don't have hands-on, I don't want to say that, but we have limited hands-on. We have limited hands-on experience over there. We have limited research. I understand we have a lot of veterinary colleges in India and we have lots of students here. Coming to the US, there are very few veterinary colleges here. So obviously, when you have very few, you can have more resources. And financial planning is definitely an important role to get more resources and stuff. And I know the colleges have changed a lot. The teaching methods have changed a lot. I don't think we are that behind as far as the academic knowledge is concerned, but skills, I wish we can have a little bit more. And we can have interaction with local shelters, and if we can have students go to a shelter and practice like basic common procedures, like even I think we call ABC over there. If you can have students do some ABC work, like animal birth control work, or if you can have students have some small animal exposure and stuff, that would be great. I'm not talking about all the veterinary colleges in India. Some colleges have really good small animal exposure as well. I think we do a good job. We can improve. There's always scope for improvement.
Okay. So there is another question that for academic career, is it required to clear licensing exam?
Academic career meaning, you mean like going into universities and stuff, sir?
Yeah, I think so, because that's the question it was put for academic career. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you are truly wanting to go into academics, you don't need it. But if you have a license, it's an extra feather in your cap. So there are professors who are veterinarians and who don't complete the ECFEG status or like licensing requirements, and they get their jobs and they work as academicians in universities with the PhD degrees.
Okay.
Already qualified, we already have these skills, we are already through this process. It's a little extra step, take a couple of more extra steps to get a beautiful feather in your cap.
So the last question, sir, you were talking about zoological medicine. So
Yes, sir.
the conventional exam, what you clear, is it enough to practice, or we have some separate exam for that? For zoological medicine?
I don't think it's separate exams. If there is a residency, there is a residency program. You have to, obviously, if there is a residency program, some of the zoos will be offering that program, I guess. And we can apply. There is a program called VIR-MP, like it's a matching program, how doctors do it here. There is a matching program. You apply to different universities. They offer, or they call you based on your merit list and stuff. How it is, I mean, it's not exactly the same with us in India. Say, it's like you can pick and choose between, like say, Gannavaram, Tirupati, or whatever. So you apply for a bunch of schools that offer that position, that residency, and if you're offered a position based on the quality of applicants of this year, you have to pursue another 3-year program for zoological medicine for most of the specialties.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
just thank you very much. I mean, I have one last question, sir.
Sure, sir. Yeah.
Do you have any idea about this space medicine? Because sometimes we send animals to space, and also is it what is the role of veterinarian? Do you have any research, anything going on there?
Honestly, I'm not sure about this.
Okay, thank you.
There'll be definitely NASA is working on that, and yeah, there will be research, but I'm not sure about it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much
so much,
for the answers. So now I'd like to hand over the charge again to the organizing secretary, Kishore, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Iqbal. Thank you, Dr. Hari. Now we have our former professor, Dr. Karunanidhi, sir. Sir, are you available? You are able to hear me? Karunanidhi, sir? Dr. Karunanidhi, sir, was our former professor of medicine, and he had been in the US as a clinician for a number of years, and returned back to India. Dr. Karunanidhi, sir, are you online? I saw your chat. Last time also we missed you. I wanted to introduce you because you were our teacher, and who was in US for so many years, way back in 80s and 90s. Your rich experience will help the alumni. Dr. Karunanidhi, sir.
Karunanidhi, sir, is there, sir.
He just chatted.
I see.
He just texted me that he had
Sir,
some,
he is here only, sir. I think his network is low.
Yeah. He just texted me that he had some.
Sir, he is online, sir. He is online.
Yes. He just texted me that he had some issues. Last time also he had some issues.
Now,
okay, he was our professor, and he was in the US. He worked in mainly large animal practice, and he was there where there were farms with 3,000 cattle. So he had a rich experience, and he was for some time in West Indies also. And sir, I think he would be some 70 plus now, and he is a very active veterinarian even now. So one thing, Dr. Hari Attigarla, will there be any, evaluation from the animal welfare or legal perspective with respect to either ECFPG or PAVE? You have touched many topics. Will you be needing to have some information with respect to animal welfare issues and legal issues?
Yeah, that part of it will be covered in the state exams. When you're taking your state board exam, there are certain rules that you will be tested for, like how you handle a certain situation, or how do you handle like dog bites and stuff. Those will be covered by the states. Each and every state or even county have their own respective laws regarding animal welfare and stuff. I'm not sure if your question is regarding that or if it is regarding any malpractice claims, sir. Could you please clarify?
Yeah, thank you. And I think ECFVG has international recognition. You said that PAVE is recognized in 45 states of the US and ECFVG in 50 states of the US. But I think compared between the two, ECFVG has, I think, international recognition compared to PAVE, which is limited to the 45 states of US.
Not exactly sure. I think even like paid veterinarians are also can work in many different countries as well. But earlier when I was doing my licensing exams and stuff, pay was something like 25 states or so. I didn't opt that because of the limited geographical restrictions they had, and also due to the expenses. Obviously, 40, 50,000 is a huge chunk of money. So I was shadowing different veterinarians, and I chose the ECFG path for these two different reasons.
Yes, you're right. Because in the third international webinar also, we are having one of our SVBU alumni, Kavita, who is also an ECFEG, but she is the senior lecturer in veterinary anatomy in Massey University, New Zealand. So she too has that ECFEG recognition. I think that gives you the global recognition, which PAVE does not give.
I'm not exactly sure about that, sir.
Yeah.
If the students have any specific questions regarding that, definitely I can get some more information regarding that.
Yeah, so I think you need to go through 4 total phases. That is ECFAG, PAVE, NAVLI, and the state board. Am I right?
No, sir, like ECFEG or PAVE.
Okay, okay. ECFAG or PAVE, followed by NAVLI and the state board.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hari Gatla. Anything to be told from your side, from your professional friend or from your personal friend, from your journey from Gannavaram to Texas? And after that, we'll be winding up and we'll be moving to the next. Last words from you, if any.
Yeah, I mean, like when we were, thank you, sir, thanks for the opportunity. When we were students, we were first batch students. Obviously, our seniors were professors like Kishore sir, RMB sir, and Yugandhar sir, and all that. We only had interaction with our professors. Our professors used to treat us like kids, and whatever guidance we got was guidance from our professors, and definitely they guided us really great. But obviously, you have a little lack of communication. You may not be able to communicate with your professor as much as you communicate with your senior, and I think this alumni fills that gap. Since there are different alumni in different sectors, this is a very good platform for anybody to interact with anybody. Since the participants, the students have known last week speakers, me and like following speakers, they can communicate in the group chat and we can get more information. And as far as an alumnus or Gannavaram College being an alma mater, I am very thankful and I'm open to anybody's requests or anything. And if I'm of any help, at least that will satisfy me that I didn't have a senior, I didn't have a proper guiding seniors at that point of time. And I don't think juniors should be having that kind of a shortage. And honestly, I wasted a few years of my life working in as a veterinarian in Andhra Pradesh. Had I known that I could straight away come to US and it's not that easy to clear the ECFEG exams and stuff, I would have been maybe a couple of years earlier here in the US and started practicing earlier.
Thank you. And for the viewers' sake, I'd like to mention that apart from what as Hari Adigarla said, when I started the alumni group, Dr. Hari was instrumental in seeing that the joining of alumni increased voluminously. He has come up with a novel idea of a batch-wise challenge. Which batch enrolls most of its batchmates, and that helped a lot. And as I say, that that challenge is still going on. maybe it has slowed down due to the pandemic as we did not conduct a physical gathering. And once it is over, when we go ahead with that, hope that badge challenge goes on. And he has done a lot of documentation, presenting on a daily basis how many batchmates of each batch joined and what was the strength of each batch since 1998. Thank you, Dr. Hari Agadla, for your presence here and giving good insights into how you can move over there and the tips to go through these exams. I request our alumni to take the best advantage of Dr. S. Harikatha through the email and we will be sharing. And this is one aspect of these international webinars to liaise our senior alumni with junior alumni and the current budding veterinarians and the current students. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So now we will move on. We are on schedule. So we will go to the second speaker, Dr. Sejian Veeraswamy. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and joining us. And thank you very much for the patience. I think you have heard the first speaker. So now I request my co-organizing secretary, Dr. Iqbal, to please introduce our second speaker, Dr. Sejian Veeraswamy. Over to you, Dr. Iqbal.
Thank you very much, sir. It is my pleasure to introduce renowned scientist in ICR system, Dr. Veeraswamy Sejian, sir. He graduated from Pondicherry Veterinary College and pursued his master's from Calcutta Veterinary College and then PhD from Institute. And he has postdoctoral experience from the Ohio State University and also University of Queensland, Australia. And he has very renowned publications in many reputed journals. His total number of publications include 675 with an excellent H index of 30 and I-10 index of 81. And his professional affiliations include international bodies like Agriculture Meteorology of Netherlands, International Awareness for Urban Climate of USA, International River Foundation of Brisbane, Australia. And he's also an editorial board member of many journals like Small Ruminant Research, International Journal of Biometeorology, Asian Journal of Animal Advances. And he's also recipient of many awards, and which are important among them are the prestigious Lal Bahadur Shastri Award of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, which is given for the young scientists. And he is the recipient of the Australian Government Endeavour Fellowship Award for pursuing his postdoctoral degree in University of Queensland. And he is also an invited speaker at the International Ruminant Nutrition Conference at Clermont-Ferrand in France, for which he was given a DST travel grant. So it's a pleasure having you here at this webinar, sir. And thank you for accepting the invitation, and we are eagerly waiting for your talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Iqbal, for that nice introduction, as always. And the host should permit me for sharing the screen. It is telling.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, Iqbal, the host should permit me to share the screen. It is telling.
Yeah.
Sir, already
Yeah,
I made you.
You are now co-host, sir. You are now the co-host.
Sir, you are the co-host, sir. You can share the screen, sir.
When I click the share screen, okay, fine. I hope all of you seeing the screen.
Yes, sir. We are getting your screen, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Iqbal. It's been a pleasure, and Kishore sir for inviting me to share some of our novel research findings we got. And as always, me and Dr. Iqbal are very close associates. We have a very relationship of very long years now. One of the finest physiologists, I must say that. So when Iqbal recommended my name, so I should never say no. So thank you, Kishore sir, for sending me a formal invitation, for inviting me to this webinar. I'm sure you people are doing wonderful, because I have a couple of times visited at Gannavaram for the talk. And I know like how nice you stimulate. Even I like to thank Dr. Hari, the previous speaker, who have enlightened with the young budding kids what is that it takes out to get a license for a practitioner to be at US. So I'm sure that there are are a lot of students sitting there, and then they might have taken some sort of motivation from his talk. And a different perspective from what Dr. Ari spoke, and it's totally from a different platform. I'm going to speak on the most buzzword around the globe currently on the climate change and livestock production, and overview on the what are the current and the future scenarios that are prevailing. So this is what in a glimpse, next 50 minutes or so I will run through with my PowerPoint, and then I'll be very happy to take a couple of questions. Well, this is going to be the plan of talk for me today. I'm going to talk about a climatic system and global climate change and what are its consequences. I'll introduce what is the heat stress, nutrition stress, and walking stress, how these are all related to the climate change, and what is that important concept of multiple stresses impacting livestock, particularly in the extensive system of rearing. And I will be speaking something on what all the advancement that has taken place to quantify the heat stress response in livestock, and also most importantly, how to identify agricultural zone specific breeds. So that is what we are currently working on. And then I'll talk something about identification of different biological marker for heat stress, and then I'll conclude my talk with some future projections. Well, you can see that these are all the some of the, as always, before I start my talk, I just draw the attention of the house for some of the important event that has taken place to climate change, and that is called as European heat wave in 2003. You can see that almost the 35,000 people have died for this, you can see in 2003. And this is the devastating effect of tsunami in 2004. We might have not forgotten all these things. You can see the devastating effect. Entire coastal area of Tamil Nadu have been washed out. And this is the Russian heat wave. And you can see that what is the toll it had, particularly on the increase in the more heat waves in particular in 2010. And you can see the Thai flood in 2011. You can see again a devastating effect the world has witnessed in 2011. And this is the East African drought in 2011. You can see what is that? There is no almost negligible water for livestock, even for the agriculture. And you can see this is a typhoon which killed almost 12,000 people in about an hour in 2013 in Philippines. You can see what is the devastating effect, grass pictorial representation. And this is the Uttarakhand flood in 2013, which clearly, if you are a North Indian, you would have not forgotten these pictures. Very, very alarming pictures. What is the devastating effect in 2013? And this is the Nepal earthquake in 2015, which is definitely having a link with the climate change. And you can see that. And then again, coming back to the Chennai, where Chennai flood in 2015, again, you can see the devastating effect, what the changing climate scenario is having on the ecosystem on the earth. And you can see the most alarming, not very far behind, the devastating effect of Kerala flood. Entire state of Kerala have been washed out in 2018. Well, audience, I would like to draw your attention that whatever these natural calamities I have projected, it is from 2003 until 2018. And then it is keep on increasing. If you can see from 2010 onwards, the frequency of such occurrences are very, very frequent. One need to understand that there is something happening here, and there are human-made contributions are the culprits here. Why we need to understand that. So this is the pictorial representation of what is this climate change. Some important facts. It has been estimated that around 262 million people were found to be affected by the devastating effect of the climate change since 2004, and quite alarmingly, 98% of such affected population are coming from the developing part of the world. That is primarily because we don't have good preparatory system in place. So we always try to cope up after it occurs rather than preventing it. So also as a result of climate change, 30 million people are likely to go hunger every year due to reduction in the agriculture yield in particular. And also World Health Organization projects that around 150,000 people are dying every year for the devastating effect of the climate change. These are some of the important facts. That's why the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change claims that all the country are culprit to this, and there is no demarcation, and every one of us should sign the climate bill, which has happened in Paris Summit in 2016. Well, important slide to understand what is the climate change. Actually, there are two issues here. One is the climate variability, and other is the climate change. You see, I have programmed the average earth temperature from 1860 until 2100. Where we are here is the red line perpendicular drawn here, and this is all projection given by Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is the sole body which controls then comes about with the projection of changing climate scenario every 5 years. And this is the data from the latest IPCC report, fifth assessment report. You can see the from 1860 until 2010, or maybe around 2005, you can see that the average earth temperature have varied somewhere between 13.5 and 14.5. You can see that this cannot be called as a climate change, because in by an evolutionary adaptive mechanism, some years could be naturally a warm year or a cold year, there could be a wet year or a dry year. So those type of reasons could be explained for this variability. But then what we are here in reality, and this point cannot be called as a variability, something dramatically happening, and you can see that all those have started around 2000 onwards. That's where we segregate the world into pre-industrialized era and industrialized era. See, when the industrial revolution has happened around 2000 enormously, lot of fossil fuel burning has happened, and then they have culminated into releasing more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and as a result, the average earth temperature have increased. IPCC projects by the end of the century a range of around 2.6 to 4.8 degrees centigrade increase in the average earth temperature, with a central estimate of around 3.7 degrees centigrade. Well, I would like to draw the attention here. Last 15 years or so, our rigorous experimental findings says that even 1 degree centigrade increase in the upper critical temperature are extremely fatal for livestock survival. Around 3.7 degrees centigrade, in my opinion, with a vast experience of working on climate change, I can say that this is the minimum projection increase that is expected. We are expecting little more, definitely by 2050 itself. So this could be achieved. So what is the preparatory system we need to keep to safeguard these most important livestock resources, which is playing a huge role for the country's economy? So it's very vital that as a veterinarian, it is our primary responsibility to find some sort of solution so that we can safeguard these poor resources, which could play a huge impact for the economy of the country, because India is an agriculture oriented country, and the major chunk of economy comes from agriculture and allied sector, particularly livestock, because among the agriculture sector also, livestock is projected as the most climate resilient sector. Well, as always in any school in science, there will be two school of thinking people. Still, there is debate in the world that even our current president, Donald Trump, don't belong to that second category, he belongs to the first category. He claims that natural climate change is a natural phenomena, nothing to worry about it. Of course, there is a part of thing that is coming from natural climate change, which is natural, unavoidable, and adaptable, and very, very slow. Say, for example, in 500 years, 0.2 degree, 0.3 degree increase in the average temperature of Earth. Whereas most of the 98%, the survey from the Jason Mason University from the US have proved that 98% of the people of the world believe that the climate change is quite rapid. That is why it is called accelerated climate change, which is abnormal, difficult to adapt, and avoidable, and quite rapid. That is why it is a pressing global issue currently, and the huge chunk of money is available for researchers. So that is why it is one of the important area for all the veterinary universities in India to concentrate on this, because we need to safeguard these livestock resources in an effort to sustain their production, so that indirectly it could play a huge role in securing the economy of the country. So, like, coming to the food security point of view, the top picture represents the present scenario, and the bottom picture represents the future scenario. You can see that most of the African subcontinent and the Indian subcontinent particularly are highly vulnerable, and this could be attributed to the increased global, increase the population of these countries. So that is primarily to do with, because we will be under extremely vulnerable condition for meeting the food requirement of this growing human population. So this is very important that we need to concentrate on finding the adaptation and mitigation strategies and amelioration strategies to safeguard the sustain the agriculture as well as livestock production with an intention to give a food security for the growing human population, which is expected around 9.6 billion by 2050. Well, there are two aspects as far as livestock is a unique sector because it can contribute to the climate change through the release of greenhouse gas emission to digestive process, and also through the manure management it can contribute again methane as well as nitrous oxide. Of course, it also gets affected by the climate change. This is the uniqueness of this sector because it is a two-way pathway for the climate change and livestock production. So therefore, if you are attempting to optimize the productivity of the livestock in the changing climate scenario, both these pathways have to be targeted. That is reducing the greenhouse gas emission from the livestock as well as reducing the effect of climate change on the livestock production. So I am going to target the second part in particular, reducing the effect of climate change on the livestock production. So this is the gross pictorial representation. You can see that this agriculture, how it has been affected, including the livestock sector. This is a picture taken from the FAO report, and you can see that almost there is negligible water resources for the poor animal as well as the agriculture to continue. And moving on to the our sector, particularly on the livestock production, climate change do not contribute to single stress. It contributes to multiple environmental stresses. So you can see that as a result, there could be direct as well as indirect effect. By far, the direct effect is due to the high temperature, and in some part there will be drought, rainfall, or in some part it is photoperiod. The indirect effects are by far most important to address from the Indian scenario point of view, because India is blessed with huge genetic resources of indigenous nature. So if my experimental finding says that if only that temperature is a cause of worry, then these animals can cope up to the increased temperature quite effectively. Most of the productive losses are incurred as a result of indirect effect of the climate change, that is sudden disease outbreak, particularly vector-borne diseases, and less feed as well as water available, and low pasture land available also. So like these are the primary reasons for reduction in the production. Of course, both the pathway can affect the productivity, which can cause an economic constraint to the country. Well, this is the slide which can propagate to the audience that what are the various impact this climate change could have on the livestock production. First, it could affect the growth, and it can affect the milk production, and it can affect the reproduction, and it can affect the meat production, and also disease outbreak, also sudden disease outbreak. So as a result, all these are should be taken into account when we are studying or quantifying the impact of the climate change. This is very vital. See, this is all the production variable that gets affected. So you can see that pictorially I can explain. This is how the heat stress affects the reproduction activity in a dairy cattle. See, like when the animal is subjected to the heat stress, the first and foremost response it exhibits is that reduces the feed intake. As a result, there could be negative energy balance in the animal, and even the less amount of feed that is consumed will be deviated for life-sustaining activities to maintain the respiratory evaporative cooling mechanism to maintain the body temperature. So also the heat stress can directly act on the hypothalamus or via reduced feed intake. Also, both the pathway can affect the hypothalamus to reduce the GnRH production, which in turn act on the anterior pituitary to reduce the FSH and LH, the gonadotrophin production. And at the ovarian level, there will be estradiol secretion decrease, and follicular dominance will get reduced, and oocyte quality may get compromised. As a result, there will be reduced estrus expression. The fertilization rate will get lowered, and embryo quality may get reduced, and ultimately there will be increased embryo loss, which will it will culminate in reduced milk production. So this is the sequelae of event that can happen as a result of the climate. And most importantly, of late, a lot of research are going on. Even we have started on associating the adaptive potential with rumen microbes. So like this is very vital that we need to work on these aspects as well, because as the world is trying to identify climate resilient livestock species, it is very vital you need to get novel concepts into picture to identify the thermotolerance. So like this is also the rumen capacity and the contraction ability, and then the feed associated changes as well as rumen associated changes, and how the methane production is linked with the heat stress, particularly in the summer season. All this need to be explored. We don't have a quantifiable data on this particular line. Of course, we have started. I have some experimental findings share in the subsequent slides. And Moving on to the meat production, it's very vital again. Very, very negligible reports are there linking climate change with the meat production, which is very vital, particularly from a small ruminant point of view. Even our team has started working on this, and we got some excellent finding comparing 3 indigenous goat breeds for the meat production ability. And we could see that almost all the major carcass trait, like live weight, pre-slaughter weight, hard carcass weight, dressing percentage, and also the quality variables, appearance, flavor, tenderness, the organoleptic variables, and also there are proximate analysis, and also the other quality variables such as pH, water holding capacity, shear force, and cooking loss are getting compromised. And also there are genes which is linked to the appropriate meat production myostatin decrease, which reflects again the low meat quality. And also there are heat stress marker HSP70 have been found to be increased, which shows that the animals are sensitive, even the indigenous animal from the meat production point of view. This is also, we have started working on this. And this is coming to the poultry sector, how the heat stress could cause the reproduction, same pathway, except that it is a estrogen decrease and then decrease fertility, and oocyte quality may get compromised, and decrease eggshell thickness, and decrease egg production ultimately. And with respect to the egg production, there will be number of egg number can decrease drastically, decrease in egg size, and decrease in egg weight, and decrease eggshell thickness, and decrease eggshell weight, and decrease eggshell percent as well. These are subsequent effect of heat stress on the layer birds, in particular on the egg production. Well, on the male, the cock, the fertility gets compromised. There will be decrease in the testosterone as a result of GnRH and LH and FSH reduction in the hypothalamus and anteropituitary respectively. It will ultimately at the testicular level, there will be decreased testosterone, which will decrease the testicular weight, decrease semen volume, decrease sperm concentration, and sperm fertility. So these are all the sequelae of event in the cock. Well, this is a review which Iqbal was introducing me. He was talking about I presented a keynote address in the recently concluded International Symposium Nutrition of Herbivores at France. So this is the review which published. Whatever the impact I have discussed or details can be obtained from this review. Well, most important slide to understand where we are standing, because I told that we are having a very good indigenous germplasm. We see that 39 breeds of indigenous cow and 13 breeds of indigenous buffalo. These are playing a huge role in sustaining the milk production. You can see that the world is changing every 5 years for the devastating effect of the climate change, but still India stands pretty comfortably as the topmost milk producer in the world. That is primarily attributed to this indigenous nature of these breeds. You can see the distribution pattern. 51% of the milk comes from the buffalo, 4% goat and cow, 29% indigenous, and crossbred 25%. This is not getting compromised, this buffalo milk as well as the indigenous milk. That is the reason we are still able to maintain or sustain the milk production, although temperature increase affects the productivity of a crossbred animal cow over the year in particular. You see, this is an important fact that Brazil, Australia, and US are importing our indigenous animal to develop heat resistant species. What Sahiwal, which gives around 6 liters of milk in Indian scenario, is producing around 22 liters of milk at Brazil. So we are also now working in collaboration with the Brazilian team now. So like you can see, these are all the important aspects, because the Western countries have understood the value or the potential or genetic merit of this animal, and they have imported them, and then they are increasing their production efficiency. But then we did not concentrate on such type of the research, because our goals are very short term. We don't have a long-term goal. So that is the reason that India has launched several missions through the NDDB, and also milk production in India has increased to around 17 million ton, although there is climate change. So even now we are currently at 188 million ton, which is in par with whatever the requirements are, even the latest report by 2018. Also we are sitting pretty comfortably. So that is how that is attributed to the indigenous nature of these animals, so which is like Sahiwal, Gir, Rati, Red Sindhi, Tarparkar, Dangi, Nagori, and among others. So a very vital animal to take it forward. And this is it is a recognition for us from FAO, Impact of Climate Change on Livestock Production. We have written in 2016 this paper, and which also has all this information, very detailed information, because in honor, because through the Feedipedia, FAO selects some best researcher in the world for a year, and they asked to contribute the chapter. Then I was happy that during my postdoctorate at Australia, me and my Australian mentor John Gaugan, professor from University of Queensland, have written this chapter, and we have published it in FAO. And coming to the adaptation, how the animal tries to adapt. These are the various adaptive mechanisms, how the animal copes to the climate change, or precisely to the heat stress. First, the animal tries to behaviorally adapt. That is, they try to alter the standing time, lying time, drinking frequency, defecation and the urination frequency. They try to reduce with an effort to conserve the body water. And also animal can cause, as a result of negative energy balance due to reduction in feed intake, also there will be increased corticotropin releasing hormone production from the hypothalamus, which in turn act on the anterior pituitary and increases the ACTH production, adrenocorticotropic hormone, which in turn act on the adrenal gland and releases more cortisol and aldosterone. Cortisol is for stress relieving, aldosterone is for electrolyte balance. And of course there are physiological mechanisms like respiration rate, heart rate, rectal temperature or body temperature, you can say, and then the liver functioning, where the cortisol acts on the liver and brings about the hepatic gluconeogenesis, that is conversion of non-carbohydrate sources into glucose, because the life sustaining activities are very vital, so there need to be continuous glucose supply, so they bring in through the cortisol this mechanism. And also the heat shock protein, which is the principal stress marker, also gets overexpressed. This is a mechanism by which the animal try to adapt. We are having a very good chamber at India. I mean, I can say the first of its kind facility in Asia, wherein we can program any agroclimatic condition prevailing in the world. And you can see that we choose 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the climate chamber, because even in the chamber, you need to be more practical, because we need to simulate what is happening in the field condition rather than putting them in a constant heat stress. So this is how at 10 a.m. Why I have chosen 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is that, and that's where in the grazing condition, where extensive system of rearing predominantly prevails in Indian scenario, where the animals are exposed to the heat stress. So this is between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. only the grazing condition the animals are exposed. So as a result, I have chosen them. This is the 30 years data. To claim climate change, you need 30 years data, and we program that average at 10 a.m. 38 degree, 11 a.m. 40 degree, 12 p.m. 42 degree, and 1 p.m. 43, and again maximum at 2 p.m. 44, and then it starts residing in the simultaneously their respective relative humidity as well. So we use this in the chamber so that to claim that this is also more of like mimicking the natural environmental stress condition. So that is an idea behind obtaining this, and we are very happy to share that this is also published in Cyro Australian journal. This is stress simulated first of its kind stress study, and this is the nutritional stress model we have established at Rajasthan, that almost 70% less than the requirement they are only getting during the summer season. So that type of severe nutritional stress has been quantified using this stress model, and some of the publications to prove our stress model, particularly from the nutrient angle, also have been published. That is for the sheep as well as for the goat model. And this is a walking stress. Most importantly, to understand, this is another important environmental stress linked with the climate change. You can see that we are first in the world, again happy to share with the house that we have established this concept of this walking stress. What is this? You know, like in the summer season, you can see that almost negligible pastures are there. Animals need to walk a long distance in search of this limited pasture. We have estimated 14 kilometers these animals are walking at the semi-arid tropical environment of Rajasthan, and we wanted to see what is this locomotory activities putting an impact on this animal. So they have been prevented from grazing by using these facial masks, indigenous face masks, and they have been acclimatized for over the period of 1.5 months for so that there is no restraint stress on this animal. The control animal and the walking animal will be fed in the morning 6 to 8 a.m. and then the animals will be access to feed and water up to 10, and then at 10 a.m. they will be allowed for walking. Then there will be a 7-kilometer walk and the rest of 1 hour, and then we bring them back to the to cover 14 kilometers as we measured that they are covering during a summer season. And simultaneously, when we are making this animal to walk, the other group of animal will be withdrawn. The control animal in the shed will be withdrawn withdrawn with the feed and water, so that to put that the uniqueness is that the only difference between them is the walking, and again in the evening they'll be getting access simultaneously both this group of animal. And we have established that almost all the stress variable varied, and we have established it to be another important stress related to the climate change. I'm happy to share that this concept we got it published in International Journal of Biomaterials, which is very high impacted for our concept, effect of walking stress on the growth, physiological adaptability and endocrine responses in Marlborough apes in a semi-arid tropical environment. This is a gross pictorial representation how this is a 4 district of Rajasthan. You can see that how the water resources are depleted during the summer season and what impact it could have on this livestock, poor livestock resources. You can see that. So water stress is another important concept. I must urge some of the researchers who are sitting there should take a lead from this talk, that this is another area where very negligible reports are available from Indian point of view. So water stress could be another important area for the future. And also moving on to the most important, now you can see that all these stresses, that is eater, nutritional stress, walking stress, and as well as the water stress, drought, all these do not happen individually, they happen simultaneously. But unfortunately, we have quantified the responses only for the heat stress. You need to see, if I ask a question to the audience, that all these stresses, they occur simultaneously during the summer season. They do not occur in the summer season. There will be heat stress, there will be less feed, there will be less water available. Animal have to walk in the extensive system of clearing a long distance for search of this limited pasture. So these are all the quantifiable stresses which occur simultaneously. So this has provoked me to design the stress model. You can see that the concept of the multiple stresses, for which the Indian Council of Agriculture Research have bestowed me with the Lal Bahadur Shastri Outstanding Young Scientist Award. This is a concept pictorial hypothetical model. The first part of the picture can tell the normal happening in an animal body, whereas the animal is blessed with some sort of body reserve. These are all the productive functions, and these are the basal functions which are very vital for survival. What happens when the animals are subjected to the single stress? For example, take an example of heat stress, where predominant studies are available. You can see that with the help of body reserve, the animal will be able to counter that stress quite effectively without compromising production. What happens when 2 or more stresses, as in practical reality, as I explained, happening, these body reserves are not sufficient, the animal try to compromise one of its productive function. Usually in our case, we have identified the growth is the first that it's compromised, and when the chronic stress prolongs, then automatically the reproduction, milk, meat and the immunity gets compromised, because the animal cannot compromise the basal function, because it is very vital for survival. So it's that is a scenario prevails, so that we have established this hypothetical model with some fantastic experimental finding. And I'm not here to propagate to the audience like we have published many, but then we are showing it as a proof of concept for the concept we developed in our laboratory. And you can see that quantum of publication that has emerged from this concept of multiple stress. You can say, I'm not going into the detail due to paucity of time, just to attract the students who are sitting there, like even a simple way of thinking can really get an interactive way of things. And then you can see that this is the behavioral adaptation, and this is the mechanism by which the animal tries to adapt in any adverse environmental condition. That is behavioral adaptation, physiological adaptation, neuroendocrine adaptation, blood biochemical response, metabolic adaptation, cellular adaptation, molecular adaptation, and morphological adaptation. Our team is particularly working on identifying biological marker in all these components, and we wanted to come about with a projection what are those markers which could be used in marker assisted breeding. You can see some of the methodology to quantify the stress response. You can see the skin coat color. There is a difference of over 4 degrees centigrade from Malabari and Western body breed because the black attracts the solar radiation. And likewise, you can see that we are also concentrating on the world's shortest breed, that is Veture cattle, which has an advantage of extremely adapted low feed requirement and less water requirement. These animals will be very valuable to identify, particularly from a marker assisted breeding selection point of view. So we are working in collaboration with Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University. In collaboration, we got some very good interesting finding on this experiment. So we need to concentrate on such type of animal. These are all the physiological mechanism recording the sweating rate, the skin temperature using infrared thermal imager, and this is an automated weather station. How we measure all the cardinal weather variables, and this is a THI equation. If the temperature is in degrees centigrade, this equation is used. If it is in degree Fahrenheit, this is used, because predominantly now world is is working on the THA index, but then we cannot claim the THA index to be the foolproof indices for quantifying stress response, because the heat load is determined primarily by these 4 cardinal weather variables, that is air speed and solar radiation, which is missed in the THI. That's why we need to look for some other better model. So in that way, I'm happy that Professor John Gogan, my mentor from Australia, they worked and identified heat load index, which taken into account all the 4 cardinal weather variable, and they also addressed the second drawback of THA, that is in particularly in a day how many hours the animals are subjected to heat stress. Also they divide an equation. See, the equation goes like this, where you can see that wind speed and the temperature is used black globe thermometer, which also takes into account the solar radiation. That means temperature, humidity, solar radiation, wind velocity, all these are taken into account. With ambient temperature less than 22.2, this equation is used. If it is more than 22.2, this equation is used. And if the cumulative score comes around 75 and it prolongs, then it is a number of hours that prolongs can be considered as an extremely severe heat stress. The animals are exposed to the heat stress. And this is another methodology, rumen temperature measurement, where rumen boluses are used. And you can see that these boluses can be inserted in the rumen, and they have working in the RFID methodology. There will be identification number, and every 10 minutes you can record the body temperature of the animals. And this is the infrared thermal imager. Even N.T.R has all these facilities now currently, and you can see, and these are the thermal imaging in the recently concluded experiment. The head temperature, what is the difference across the breed, and the body temperature differences across the breed, and then the food temperature, what is the differences across this breed have been identified. And this is the way forward. Then what are the different scopes that are available for quantifying the ameliorating the stress response of the animal. I have grouped them into 4 different categories, that is nutritional modification, animal housing modification, genetics and breeding, and animal health and health management. You can see that first pathway, the shelter management. The animals have to be provided with appropriate microclimate. You can grow a lot of shelter, the shade around the structure, and then you can provide them cooling system, ventilation system, and then the shed should be east-west orientation for appropriate wind flow. And coming to the nutritional modification, a lot of progress has been made in last decade or so. Seasonal specific feeding, fiber feeding, feeding concentrate, fat, and vitamin and mineral supplementation, providing cool drinking water. By far, most of the current targets of genetics and breeding approach, because that could give a permanent solution to the problem, identifying climate resilient animal model, where our team is currently working on. I'll have some slides subsequently to explain that. And most importantly, like water stress, animal health management also a very, very negligible report. So some students who are interested in can take up this as a research aspect. Monitoring and evaluation, epidemiological surveillance, rapid investigation of the output, linking with the geographical information system, the disease outbreak, and followed by laboratory research. These are some of the easy to use of fans, wet gunny bag in the wind direction, so that it could keep 3 degrees centigrade inside, very cooler, and growing vegetation over the roof, and misting also. And this is an automated wetting unit, wherein for 30 seconds, if the THI crosses to the extremely severe stress, the automated wetting unit will start for 30 seconds. And the fan also will run for around 5 minutes, so that there is no much humidity happening. So this is again in collaboration with the Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University. They are using this. And moving on to these are some of the cold protection devices at the field level. We have disseminated the lamps, protecting them using BAM domed structure, and thermocol roofed house with white painting to reflect the solar radiation. All these have been some of the shelter management strategies. And also I told the cool drinking water. So these are thermal sensor put in the water trough, and that could be used for the animal for ingestion of more cold water during the summer season. And this is the progesterone impregnated intravaginal device manufactured by Central Sheep and Wool Research Institute. Cutting across the breed, these are used during the summer season for synchronizing the easters. The per sponge costs around 7.5 rupees. So it's a very easy to use technology. If the organized farm, you can refer them to get these two, and then almost 98 to 100% success rates are there, cutting across all the species: cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, mithun, yak. For everything they are manufacturing this. And the concepts are changing now. You provide them the natural light using Placidum is a German-based company, where luminous lights are being used for in place of incandescent bulb to increase the productivity. That is more yield through biologically effective light. Likewise for cattle, also more yield through biologically effective light. Natural atmosphere, you get a more yield using luminous bulbs. And this is a specialized integrated design, innovative model wherein it can be propagated to the farmers because they need to have their livelihood security. So then this could be the model to go forward, which again Dr. Prasad from Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University worked with us, and then they are working on and disseminating to the farmer. This is the unit that as well a tank for fodder cultivation, layer unit, grower unit for poultry, and a rabbit unit, and then goat unit. 6 goat can be reared, and fodder production using hydroponic. These are the component of the structure, and it costs around 1.17 lakh. So the farmer can take an 1,17,000 this costs around roughly. So that could be very effectively used by the farmer to get a rich dividend during the summer season in particular. And genotypic differences in adaptation, we are now progressing towards identifying agroecological zone specific breed, where you can see that we need to identify whether the indigenous, among the indigenous animal also, which breed could have the potential to survive in multiple locations. With that intention, we brought Osno body from Karnataka, Malabari from Kerala, and Salam Black from Tamil Nadu. We have conducted this experiment. You can see that in the respiration rate, the Salam Black showed lower, although increase shows all the three are in stress, but still the level of respiration rate were lower as compared to that of Osno body and Malabari. Likewise, the rectal temperature also lower as compared to the other two breed in this temperature also. And now in the cortisol, there is almost negligible difference in the Salam Black breed. Likewise, the HSP70 expression in peripheral blood mononuclear cell, you can see that significantly lower than other two stress group of Osno body and Malabari. And also the peripheral blood mononuclear cell HSP70, you can see that almost negligible difference in its expression pattern of HSP70, which is considered as a cellular thermometer in this animal. So what I mean to say is that these are the stress marker which has established Salam Black as a huge advantage over the other breed. Likewise, we have also programmed the rumen microbial population distribution, and I will not throw much light on in these slides because this is the genetic level at the phylum level and genus level, and this is the thing I want to draw the attention of the house. You can see that Osno body, Malabari, and Salam Black, the diversity did not change much in the Salam Black breed at all the taxonomic level of phyla, class, and genus, whereas in both Osno body and Malabari breed there are huge diversity differences, which means the heat stress is affecting the digestion because that is ultimate for providing energy for the life sustaining activities. So these could be linked to the adaptation potential, and we are working on a very good important manuscript for, because this is a novel concept we are working on, and we have established that this is the Venn diagram showing the differential pattern of more microbes established, and you can see that the Keck pathway analysis showed not much deviation as far as the Salam Black heat stress group alone. So this clearly indicated that Salam Black breed is the breed to survive in southern India, and some of the stress marker did not show much difference in this breed, proving that it has a better climate resilience over there. For promoting Salam Black breed among the local farmer may be highly beneficial for ensuring their livelihood security. Again, like the multiple stress concept, you can see that the quantum of publication from this single experiment, some incredible publication. Most of the students from this experiment have been placed at Australia for the PhD with this publication that has emerged from this single experiment. And this is the biological marker our team has identified, particularly from various sources we worked on. Their lymph node, TLR1, 6, and 8, and thyroid hormone receptor, respiration rate, SLICR gene, and these are the SOD, superoxide dismutase, and nitrous oxide synthetase in the blood, hemoglobin, PCV, cortisol, T3, T4, Itchak protein, and from the skin, prolactin receptor gene and fibroblast growth factor, and a lot of enzymes from the liver have been identified as the biological marker for the way forward. And this is the genes for resilience to heat stress in small ruminant. This is an invitation for us. This is an invited review published in the small ruminant where all these details have been given. And these are the prediction model and assessment methodology and biotechnological tool to quantify heat stress response in the ruminant livestock species. In the review article, again, all these have been worked out in detail. These are the strategic plan to cope to the climate change. First, you should assess the impact. You can ask me that there are many indigenous breeds that need to be screened yet. That is why I am projecting this. Still lot of research. We can claim indigenous animals. You can see our experimental finding. There are even among the indigenous animals, there are a lot of lacunas are there. So it's very vital to generate baseline information to identify the best breed, which could be called as a pan-India breed, which could be disseminated to the local farmers. So then after assessing their impact, identify the strategy to improve their production, and also convert them into adaptation strategy using policymakers, and also simultaneously mitigation strategy to reduce the livestock related greenhouse gas emission. Of course, the role of extension is very vital. Extension should take the technology developed from the laboratory to the land. These are the way forward, and this is the adaptation strategy that is very vital. Breeding strategy and strengthening the meteorological services, water resource management, disease surveillance, system, and women empowerment, importantly in India, and that is not a component in the climate change research. And most importantly, capacity building program, where our institute is making a huge part, because we have a very good team for the climate change. So we conduct quite regular training programs, so you can come and take an advantage of that. I would like to conclude my talk by saying that research aiming at improving livestock production under changing climate scenario should aim at countering multiple abiotic stress simultaneously, and also sustaining livestock production in the changing climate scenario must target on improving the production efficiency through strategical intervention to augment livestock production. Most importantly, the indigenous animal need to be targeted, and more information need to be generated to have a resource pool of climate resilient breed. From there, farmer could choose the best for their livelihood security ensurement, and that is the way forward to ability to survive in different ecological zone. Breed has to be identified to call pan-India breed, which could have the ability to produce and survive in any location in the country. So that is what me and my team are currently heading towards, and these are the future perspectives for the students' point of view. If you wanted to take a career in the climate change livestock production, these are the future projection I can give. Advanced thermal indices, more agroecological zone specific thermal indices need to be developed, and then strengthening the agro advisory services, and for preparing the farmer for coping up to the natural calamities. And nutrigenomics, particularly nutrition, is the most crucial, which determines the production and reproduction. So it need to be worked on. More illustrating mechanisms have to be targeted and then established, and rumen metagenomic approach, particularly what progress we made, we wanted to do for different breed and compare to give an outlook of new insight into adaptive potential based on the rumen microbial diversity. And epigenetic changes, particularly, like this is very vital, because there could be changes at the DNA methylation pattern and histone molecule modification, because the animals adapt in a particular location. That is an evolutionary mechanism. They gain this adaptive potential through several generations. So it's very vital to know generation to generation what is the difference that is happening, particularly from the epigenetic point of view. And then we need to quantify more advanced biological marker, and also we need to work on less methane production per unit of feed consumed. That is also very vital future strategy. And most importantly, climate smart livestock production integrated farming system, as I have projected with a collaboration with the Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University, there need to be the target before the house. And then I also wanted to project that we should rethink or revisit our breeding policy. We have only predominantly concentrated on the adaptation trait, but then I can propagate that the future breeding strategy should be an amalgamation of adaptation trait, production trait, and low methane emission trait. That could be the way forward for getting the rich dividend from this indigenous germplasm in particular, so that the country's economy can be ensured. Something to cherish, a dream come true for me. You can see that I have established a center at the National Institute of Animal Nutrition Physiology, Bangalore, Center for Climate Resilient Animal Adaptation Study. We got some international standard climate chamber, even which is not available in some of the Western countries, which is first of its kind. Why it is first of its kind? Because we have a very good thermoneutral zone inducing chamber. What happens in the stress study? We always keep the animal in the shed, where even during the summer season there could be 36 to 38 degrees centigrade even inside the shed, which cannot be called as a thermoneutral zone. The ideal thermoneutral zone varies between 22 to 26 degrees centigrade for the ruminant species, and that need to be programmed. So we have that chamber. So any marker associated study had to be conducted in such an atmosphere wherein there should be drastic difference between the control and the stress group. Towards my left is the thermoneutral zone chamber. Towards my right is the controls, the heating or cooling chamber. We can alter the temperature from -5 to 55 degrees centigrade. So we can conduct any part of the world temperature could be programmed, and then any multi-location trial can be conducted we can give them the results very, very efficiently. You can see that the another drawback of most of the climate chamber in India is that there are individual partitioning that becomes a confinement stress. That also we have taken into account. The animal can communicate very easily. The animals have a very free movement. 12 animals can be housed in each chambers, and we are having an individual feeding and watering facility and individual urine and feces collection tray, and so that we can take it forward to generate some quality data from the adaptation point of view. That's where me and my team are currently working on. And you are free to come, because we need to utilize such facility. So, and that is an again proud moment to share of the best publishers in the world. And when this environmental stress and amelioration livestock protection 2012, climate change impact on livestock adaptation and mitigation in the year 2015, and in the year 2017, sheep production adapting to the climate change. So we are going to wind up with a fourth book claiming that goat is the ideal climate animal model for various advantages it possesses on thermotolerance, drought tolerance, and disease resistance capacity. That's where I wanted to culminate this series of hard work that is culminating into this enormous publication emerging. This is for the students sitting over there. Some of the, you can take a screenshot of this. So these are some of the societies, professional affiliation membership available free of cost for developing part of the world. People where you can take an advantage for a short-term training, some fundings are available on this, and it also could improve your CV from the professional networking point of view. And I'd like to place on record my sincere thanks to all the organizers who have given me this opportunity to share some of the very novel research finding me and my team have established here. And you can see that my lecture cannot come to an end without acknowledging, because I am the team leader, and there are a lot of students who work day night with me, and my fellow colleagues Dr. Bhagat Krishnan and Devaraj, and my technical officer Vaibhav, and both the directors, Dr. Bhatta, current director, and my previous Central Sheep and Wool Research Institute director, Dr. Nakvi, played a huge role in shaping up my career. These are all my international collaborators, Dr. John Gogan from University of Queensland, Professor Danshia from University of Melbourne, and Professor Michael from Charles Sturt University, Australia. These are all currently I'm collaborating with. So my sincere acknowledgement to all of them. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I hope I kept up the timing of the for the audience. So I'll be very happy to prepare to take some questions from all of you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shivan. Now over to you, Iqbal, for the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for a very nice and inspiring presentation. It's really very informative for all those who are, for the students especially, for apprising about this climate change and its effects and how it is playing a role in the livestock production. So there are a few questions, sir, for you. So one question is, just a minute, sir. Yeah, so one person has asked that, do you have any research pertaining to molecular adaptation of livestock in cold stress?
Cold stress, yes, that's a good question. I don't think so. We did a couple of experiments that was only on the phenotypic traits, and we are yet to work, because the chamber have been established only in the February, and we should be able to conduct some very good study on that and come about with molecular adaptation.
Okay, sir. And with respect to, there is one question with respect to desertification. Since the desertification is increasing in the country, what mitigation strategy should be taken to counter that?
Desertification. So like, yeah, it is nothing like a propagation. The government should come into picture. So they need to propagate that. These are very, very, very important, because otherwise the pasture keeps on gets shrinked, and then especially the small ruminant farmers, they are not affordable for the fodder purchase. So it is very vital. That is otherwise we also particularly through the extension system. That's why I was mentioning that we don't have a good extension system in place, especially for the climate change research. Extension workers are very vital to talk and then stop this desertification happening. So it is very important that we need to safeguard these natural resources, the so-called the pasture land, which is otherwise very much drastically shrinking with the urbanization that is happening. So it's very vital that I think this is something to do with the policy maker, that they need to come and propagate it and then try to prevent that happening.
So one question from our former member of Board of Management, Professor Karnanidhi, sir. So he is asking to suggest how to implement in individual animal management practices with respect to this climate change. because most of the people are smallholders in our country. So it is individual animal management that is more important than herd management. So how to address this?
That's a very pertinent question. I must appreciate that question, because that is where we are getting the purpose beaten, because we cannot extrapolate from the Western countries some adaptive measures and then implement in India, because that is not going to work out. What I would suggest definitely is that we need to develop a package of practices. Okay, that should be area specific. And we need to again bring in the extension worker for that to propagate. You develop a pamphlet, for example, I can list out something like provide them the shade, natural shade with not much cost, and then you grow some tree around, and then provide them cool drinking water which will not cost them much. And then you try to develop some new fodder varieties which are very thermotolerant, so that year-round fodder production can be obtained. And then you can also put wet gunny bags in the wind direction, okay, as an important stress management strategies. This could be pictorially represented. Pamphlets can be prepared, and that could be disseminated to the farmer. And what could be the, if at all they are affordable for the concentrate, what could be the best ratio, 60:40 or 70:30 roughage and concentrate ratio. These all should be worked out. Pamphlets need to be developed, and then the mineral mixture or something that could be which is very cheap now currently available, that could be implemented at what rate that could be included. So all this could be propagated very easily using a pamphlet to the farmer, who can take an advantage of that.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for all the answers. And once again, I thank you very much for the presentation. Such a nice presentation.
Thank you, Iqbal. It was a pleasure, man. As always, like we look forward to associating with Gannavaram soon. That's what Professor Kishore also is here, and Associate Dean also is here. I want to place on record my sincere thanks, and also I would like to take it forward, this collaboration, because Iqbal is an immensely potential researcher. We have identified one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best physiologists available in the country, because age doesn't matter here. That's what I wanted to say. We need to take it forward, this collaboration. As always, I come to Gannavaram, I make it a point. Very sooner or later, we need to start some important collaborative research, so that on the research front also we are also, I want to tell, even with your university also, we are having MOU. So which is very vital for collaboration, which can be easily used. Even the students can come and take an advantage of these chambers. So those type of collaboration need to be started at the earliest equal. And thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I'll hand over the charge to Organizing Secretary, Professor Kishore, sir, for further proceedings.
Thank you, Dr. Iqbal. Thank you, Dr. Sajan, for a very elaborative information on this aspect of climate change. Even the UNO is focusing a lot on this climate change, because it's a global phenomenon. And you have very rightly focused on the livestock perspective, and you have given the future perspective. I think this is the need of the hour, and the question of the individual animal management also is very important, because our country is different with respect to the management practices compared to other advanced countries. And of course, everything needs to be customized. And as you have very well said, we both have an MOU between SVBU and NIANP. And straight away, any proposal between any department of NIANP and between any department of physiology should go through very easily, just citing the MOU. And when you just come up with the project proposal, it will be verified with the committee, and the things get very easy with the MOU. So we welcome you to associate with our physiology department at Gannavaram. And as you have said rightly, we are proud that we have Iqbal Haidar back from Germany after his PhD at Gannavaram. So we thank you for that. Thank you. So now, thank you. We'll move over to the next speaker, Dr. Nidhi. Yeah. So we are welcoming you once again, and we are thanking you for the patience that you have seen over the past 2 hours. I hope you also listened to 2 very topics.
Yes, it was very informative, and looking to the present scenario, I really enjoyed it. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, thank you.
We are very happy to have you here, because the concept that we had in organizing this international webinar series, that we should have talks from varied fields. And we had been successful from getting people across the globe with lot of international expertise. And we have seen to it that all the three international webinars, we have speakers from different countries and from within India with great international exposure. And we have been successful in getting topics of varied interest with respect to and with focusing on the professional science of our veterinary science. And most of the participants and we too are eager to hear from your side, because this topic of vets and wildlife conservation and oversight is very important to us, because our country geographically is very different. Only few states have good wildlife, others do not do. And research on wildlife also is restricted to certain geographical areas of our country, limited to certain states. So we welcome you to enlighten us on this. Over to you.
Thank you, sir.
I now request Dr. Tomar, the coordinating secretary, to please introduce Dr. Nidhi before she begins her presentation. Over to you, Dr. Tomar.
Thank you, sir. It is my pleasure to introduce one of my good friend as well as my co-worker, Dr. Nidhi Rajput, in our international webinar series, second international webinar, today on 13th October 2020. Actually, when we were doing our graduation, post-graduation, we have worked together in the field of wildlife for more than 6 years. And I remember still those days when we were struggling for saving of these wild animals and all. We were working in the field of wildlife health, wildlife forensics, and very good works actually we have done. So to introduce Dr. Nidhi Rajput, I would like to say Dr. Nidhi Rajput is alumnus of Jawaharlal Nehru Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, Jabalpur, from where she completed BVSc and MVSc from College of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Jabalpur. Then she worked in Tata Steel Zoological Park, Jamshedpur, that we also know with that Jamshedpur Zoo. And after that, she has joined in as a scientist in Center for Wildlife Forensic and Health, Jabalpur, which is known as now School of Wildlife Forensic and Health. She was awarded Dr. G.L. Vigard Gold Medal in Veterinary Pathology, and she was also received the Ravi Shankaran Fellowship for Young Conservationist for Wildlife Internship abroad. She also received Young Scientist Award by Madhya Pradesh Council of Science and Technology. For professional updates, she attended various trainings in Edinburgh, UK, Cornell University, USA, field training in London, wildlife forensics training in Gujarat, and wildlife extensive in Waynesboro, USA. She published more than 20 research articles related to wildlife health and forensics in various reputed journals. So on behalf of entire organizing team of this international webinar series, I welcome you, Dr. Nidhi Rajput, and now you can start your presentations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Tomar, for such a nice introduction. And here, as I will be discussing about the vets and wildlife conservation, I'll be discussing about what our government agencies as well as NGOs are working in this field and how we veterinarians can be involved and do our best to contribute for the wildlife conservation. And as I understand that there are many students here in the audience, so I'll be discussing about how they can pursue their degree programs in wildlife health management. And later on, at the end, I'll be discussing about the significance of veterinarians in today's scenario, the pandemic we are all facing. And I'll be ending the webinar with that note. So to start with, wildlife, we very frequently talk about it, wildlife. But scientifically, if we define it, then it is undomesticated fauna as well as uncultivated flora. Fauna means animals and flora means plants. So undomesticated fauna and uncultivated flora, which are thriving naturally without any human assistance. And they do have ecological values for our ecosystem and as well as for the mankind. So this wildlife, it is actually a very broad term, but related to my today's talk, I'll be using the wildlife for the wild animals. Now, we are very fortunate that our country is one of the mega biodiversity countries, and uh, our nation is full with habitat or uh, protected areas, and we are fortunate to see so many wild species all around the country. But yeah, that is the fact that human population is increasing, and because of that, it is also affecting our wildlife. Government agencies as well as various NGOs are working continuously to maintain the wildlife and and to reduce the impact of human population. Whatever we are doing to reduce the impact, they are working continuously. And here, as a veterinarian, what is our role? And it is very significant. And right now, there are many veterinarians, veterinary scientists who are working continuously in this field to support the government as well as to support the NGOs. But whenever we think about the wildlife, so we often, I mean, most of us often wonder that what is wildlife? I mean, what will I do as a veterinarian over there in the wildlife? Because we all have grown up watching National Geographic Channel, Discovery channels, where it is mostly emphasized over tracking the animal, its monitoring, and then the habitat. But nowhere, I mean, the veterinary aspect was nowhere discussed. So most of us, we don't know that how a veterinarian can be contributing to wildlife conservation. So wildlife conservation and veterinarian, then the term comes wildlife health management. So this is the section of wildlife science or wildlife conservation where veterinarians are doing a very great job. Although this is an emerging field, but the focus is very clear that yes, we need to maintain a healthy wildlife. And it is although emerging, but now it has become a very important section of biodiversity conservation. And Government of India, even I will say that globally, people are recognizing that this field is very much necessary and the role of veterinarians can never be ignored. So quickly, I will discuss about the background of this subject. Back in 1994, Wildlife Institute of India, Dehradun, in association with the USGS National Wildlife Health Center, initiated a program named Indian Wildlife Health Cooperative, IWSC, for the better management of wildlife health all over the country. And under this program, there were 5 regional centers located at Anand, Guwahati, Madras, now Chennai, Jabalpur, and Hisar. And the purpose was to collaborate with the veterinary institutions located in this region. So at the time, in this slide, you can see Dr. P.K. Malik sir here. He was the coordinator for this IWSC, and there is also Dr. A.B. Srivastava sir, who was a nodal officer for Jabalpur IWSC. And I would say that this was the beginning of an era of wildlife health management in India. Simultaneously, at the time, there were other wildlife veterinarians were working, like Dr. Jani sir at Anand, Gujarat, Dr. Jay Thangaraja sir, Chennai, and Dr. K.K. Sharma sir from Assam. And you all know that he is, this is a very proud moment for veterinary fraternity that he has received Padma Shri. And Dr. K.K. Sharma sir, he has done a great job for the elephant management. And then Dr. A.K. Sharma sir, Dr. Devin Sarup sir, they were there in IVRA, and they were also working for the wildlife conservation. And since 1994, they are all working, and most of them have been superannuated. But there are other veterinarians, senior veterinarians, who are working right now in this field, like Dr. Parag Nigam sir from WII, Dr. Indramani Nath sir. So I would say that uh, they were the stalwarts who actually came forward from the veterinary fraternity to support the government of India for wildlife conservation. At Jabalpur, Dr. A.B. Srivastava sir, who is the founder director of the School of Wildlife Forensic and Health, he uh, upgraded the IWSC2 department and then center and now School of Wildlife Forensic and Health under the Nanaji Deshmukh Veterinary Science University in collaboration with the Madhya Pradesh Forest Department. And this was an MOU signed between the two institutions to work for the wildlife health in the state of Madhya Pradesh. But this center is also serving for the neighboring states like Chhattisgarh and Maharashtra. Now, with this background, you all have heard the news recently on Tiger's Day that the tiger population has been increased from just 1,411 in 2006 to 2,967. And now we have almost 70% of the tigers population of whole world. So this was the collaborative efforts of various agencies, governmental agencies, NGOs. But yes, what we should be proud about that wildlife veterinarians have played a great role to achieve this. And I'll be discussing about it just now. How veterinary science have contributed for wildlife conservation in the field of wildlife health management. So I can categorize into 4 points. Wildlife diagnostics means by detecting the pathogens in the wild animals to prevent further outbreak in the population. And then health monitoring and treatment, because there are many rescue operations and sometimes there is the need of the health management or health monitoring of whole herd, then also veterinarians are needed. And then third, most important, wildlife forensic, because we all know wildlife crime, it is increasing day by day. So veterinarians have also a very great role to play in this section. And then the fourth, training and extension. That means training the frontline staff of the forest department to develop a support system to conduct various health management and forensic activities. Now, Government of India, by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, India's National Wildlife Action Plan has been generated for the year 2017 to 2031. There are many contents of that, but I have taken the 5 contents uh, in which there is the veterinary element. That means that these 5 contents have the involvement of veterinarians. So I'll be discussing one by one, and also with the information that how the veterinarians can get involved and how the budding vets who are there, they can make their career. First is control of poaching and illegal trade in wildlife. We have Wildlife Protection Act that was implemented in the year 1972. And under this act, there are wild animals listed under different schedules. That means they are poaching. Poaching means illegal killing of the wild animals. So they are poaching or their possession, and not only the animals, but any of their body parts is punishable. So under this Wildlife Protection Act, all the wild animals are protected. And now, wildlife crime, it is still there. Sometimes there is the whole animal, it is seized, and sometimes there are parts of the animals. Like in the slide, you can see that there is the very small meat piece, then there are broken parts here of the skull, and then just a small piece of skin. And forest department, they always try to collect the evidences so that they can produce all these evidences in the court of law against the poachers. So sometimes there is blood stain materials, like here, these are leaves having blood stains. So all these materials, when collected by the forest department, then comes the role of veterinarian to identify the species. Also on the field, unnatural causes of death. That means poachers, they use every method to kill these wild animals, every and any method, like electrocution, drowning, poisoning, snares and traps. So how to justify, I mean, how to collect the evidence in such situation? Then again, veterinarians are there to help the forest department. Forensic necropsy is the most important element of wildlife crime investigation on the field. The veterinarians who are there in the protected areas or nearby protected areas, they sometimes get the whole carcass, and they have to conduct the detailed postmortem examination, detailed necropsy to rule out the cause of death, every possible cause of death. And then they have to collect the samples for further laboratory investigations. And then again, in the laboratories, there are veterinary scientists who are helping the forest department, because the samples, the forest department, they collect the samples like blood stained materials or just a piece of meat. Then there is the option of DNA based species identification. And then sometimes they seize just a few hairs. Then how to identify that? Then again, veterinarians, they come to rescue. And there are many microscopical and morphometrical methods, morphological methods to identify these biological samples. And then there is histopathology, toxicology, because the animal has been died. So one needs to find out the cause. So these investigations are carried again by the veterinarians to know the cause and the pattern of death. So, in forensic investigation, if we review, then the veterinarians are involved right from conducting the necropsy, collecting the samples, preserving it, and sending it to the lab. And again in the lab to conduct all these investigations to produce the evidences. And then these evidences are produced by the forest department in the court of law against the poachers. Now, there are some practicing veterinarians and students, they might be planning their career as a private practitioner or in the exotic veterinary field. Then please be very careful when you are handling the wild animals or wild species, because even we have Wildlife Protection Act 1972, there are many campaigns are going on, but people, the general public, they are still not aware that about the conservation status of many wild species. So you should know that these are endangered species or these are protected species scheduled under Wildlife Protection Act. So you should discourage the owners, and also you should let them know that these are wild and should not be kept as a pet. And the list is very long, but I have here shown some pictures of such wild species, very commonly there in the trained, and people are keeping them as pets, like this is parakeet, star tortoise, soft-shell turtles, and Indian tent turtles. There are many, many, many turtles and birds. So when you are practicing, then just aware of the law and do your duty. So this was about the forensic and mitigation of poaching. Now, second component is wildlife health management. And this is the most important section of wildlife conservation, because here, veterinarians are greatly needed. And also, this section has almost all the veterinary elements. This includes extension activities like treatment, rescue, rehabilitation of the wild animals. And after that, we have paraclinical departments like pathology, parasitology, microbiology. And these are all done to to assess the health status of ailing species. So as a veterinarian, when there is the I'm sorry, when there is the rescue or there is the ailing species, then veterinarians again come to rescue, and they perform various veterinary interventions to save the species, and not only save these species but also rehabilitate it, because wild animals, these are not meant to kept uh, under captivity. If they are going back, if we are releasing them back to the wild, then this is the purpose solved. Then there is this immobilization, because we all know that there are many ecological studies are going on all over the country. So for that matter, animal needs to be immobilized. And again, veterinarians are there to immobilize the animal. And there are many interventions like radio collaring. It is going on in Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, they have immobilized elephants and radio collared them. So veterinarians have a great role to play in these field activities. Now, this wildlife health management, it is a bit different from the traditional veterinary science, because what we do usually as a practicing veterinarian, that we have an individual animal in front of us and then we have to save its life or to treat it. But in wildlife, not we are not focusing over a single animal. There is the herd of the animals, because they are living in an ecosystem, and if one species is affected, then it is surely going to affect all the species associated and also the habitat involved. So with this fact, there is the need of disease surveillance and diagnostics, which is going on. And in this, again, veterinarians, they conduct the field surveillance to find out the species which are affecting, and then also the associated species which are there involved with that species, and then the habitat analysis. So this is going to give the complete picture of epidemiology, and without veterinarians, it cannot be conducted. And you all know that there are many emerging diseases in the wildlife in recent past: canine distemper in big cats, and then goat pox in wild ungulates, and then EEHV in elephants, endothelial elephant herpes virus. So to rule out the cause, I mean, it's a very long process. It's an epidemiological study. For that matter, veterinarians, they do field surveillance, sample collection, laboratory diagnosis, and whatnot. So you can also pursue your career in this field and support the government to identify what is affecting the wild animals there in the ecosystem. So after the wildlife health management, the next important component is mitigation of human-wildlife conflict. We all know that human population is just expanding. It is entering the habitat of wild animals. Then obviously there will be the chances of conflicts. It is going on. You can observe that, or you can read in the newspapers, in the news daily, it is coming that the wild animal was found roaming in the residential area. So I don't think it has come just to roam around, because it was its habitat, and now we are expanding. So this is the conflict situation which is happening around, and here also veterinarians are needed to control this, because if you see this slide, there are rescue operations needed in such situation. So animals, wild animals, it is not always going to give you the problems. Sometimes they are in distress. So problematic wild animals, and then second category is distressed wild animals. Problematic wild animals are usually those are lifting the cattle, harming the livestock, and then the distressed wild animals are sometimes they are trapped in a snare or fell in the well. So in such situation, veterinarians are needed. So in these pictures, you can see immobilization and then rescuing them safe is the utmost responsibility of a veterinary officer. Now, the last two components are development of human resources and strengthening research and monitoring. Veterinarians are already giving trainings to frontline staff workers of forest department so as to develop a support system in health management and forensic activities. And then if we talk about our veterinary fraternity, then human resource means our budding vets. So giving them knowledge about the wildlife health management, it is so necessary. It is it is there in our syllabus, in VCI syllabus, but that small unit is not justifying the role of veterinarians in the wildlife conservation. And right now in our country, there are only 4 universities which are offering these PG courses in wildlife health management. One is Nanaji Deshmukh Veterinary Science University at Jabalpur, and then Tanuvas at Chennai, Chhattisgarh Kamdhenu University, Durg, and then Karnataka Veterinary Animal and Fisheries Sciences University, Vidar, Bangalore. So the vets who are thinking to pursue their career in wildlife health management can go through their website and can review the degree programs they are offering. Now, I will go a little off the track for the next 7 slides because I know there are many budding vets who want to pursue their career in this field, but they are very much doubtful about the employment potential. Yeah, because right now there are, as you could see, that there are only 4 universities all over the country. So in academic institutes, yes, the position, vacancies are not that available, but there are many government agencies and NGOs. They require wildlife veterinary officers like forest department for the mitigation of wildlife conflicts and also for various health management activities, zoo authorities, because there are many zoological parks all across our country and they need veterinary officers to be posted there. And then there are biodiversity boards at state level and national level, and they need veterinarians as consultants. Then animal husbandry department, and then there are wildlife research institutes, and then disaster management authorities, because we all know there are many disasters. When they occur, the wildlife is the sufferer. So veterinarians, they also come to rescue, and then there are NGOs who are working for the better management of wildlife. So they also need veterinarians in their institution. Now, based on the employment potential and actually driven by their passion, these are the slide is showing our research scholars. And they are very enthusiastic and they know where they want to go. And that's why they are very confident about their selection for this course. And also, they are working hard to learn this science. And many of them are already posted in protected areas like in this picture here, Dr. Ranjit Herne. I'm very happy to inform you all that he has been selected for Reliance Geo Foundation for exotic facilities, and he will be joining next week for the same. So there is, right now in veterinary science, we cannot say that this field is saturated or this field has no options for career. Actually, it's your passion. You need to be passionate to pursue your career in any field, and no one can stop you. Now I will go a little more off the track. Just a little bit of my experience as a wildlife vet scientist. I started to work in this field in 2009 as a master's student. And then after going through many trainings and also the conferences and courses, still I consider myself that I'm still evolving. there are many challenges which I have faced, but yeah, many girl students, they ask me that, what are the struggles for a lady vet? So I would say struggles, it is always there. I mean, if you are a lady veterinarian, then you are with the livestock management, and then you are with the elephant management. So your patient is not going to listen to you. Then it's your confidence which will help you. So don't, never underestimate yourself and just go for it, because struggle is only one to be better yourself. And I want to take this opportunity to highlight some of the names of lady wildlife vets of our India. Dr. Shweta Mandal from Gorumara National Park, Dr. Aditi Sharma from Rajaji Tiger Reserve, Dr. Gauri Malapur. She is an excellent reptile expert, reptile veterinarian. And then Dr. Anuradha Reddy. She is there in Lacons and doing excellent in research in wildlife forensic. So there are many wildlife veterinarians, like I want to take few names, Dr. Komal from Mumbai Zoo, Dr. Deepika. So they're all working tirelessly. They are excellent in their profession and their experience more or less similar. Yeah, no doubts. Opportunities are less for women wildlife veterinarians, but yeah, if you are confident enough, you are professionally sound and skilled, then no one can stop you to pursue your dream. So to girl students, this is my message, that just go for it. If you have a passion, then don't hesitate and go for it. And I'm very proud of my lady scholars at SWFH, Dr. Janvi. She has done Masters in Wildlife Health Management and now serving as the veterinary officer at Sardar Patel Zoological Park, Kevadia, Gujarat. And now the other two scholars, Madhvi and Harshita, they have also applied to a couple of places and are very confident for their selection. Will be serving as veterinary officer very soon, wildlife veterinary officer, I should say. And they are the role models for me, because in wildlife field, you have to learn from everyone. It's a teamwork. Alone, one cannot do anything. So it's a teamwork, and I'm learning from all these uh, students and as well as from the professionals. Now, this is a bit disturbing. It is for everyone, not only for girls or boys. When we talk about the challenges in wildlife health management, then this happens. This happened with Dr. Akhilesh Mishra, who is a wildlife veterinary officer at Page Tiger Reserve, Sydney. He was there for the rescue of a tiger. And also there was the angry crowd. So at the same time, he had to face the anger. And this is what happened actually over there. So what should I say, that the animals safety is the priority, and this can only be achieved, I mean, this thought process can only be achieved if you are passionate about your job. So here gender doesn't really matter. If you are professionally sound, skilled and confident, then you should go for this field and take the inspiration from the veterinarians who are already working in this field. Now coming back to the topic, why? Why all this chaos, and why to disturb the wildlife? I mean, wildlife is healthy. It is a common belief. But, and many people, they say that, why do we need it? Why to disturb this flourishing wildlife in our country? That's the question. Now, the answer is climate change. Like in the previous presentation, Sir has given the impact of climate change on animal production. Then why should not we should focus on, I mean, on the effect of climate change on the wildlife health? In veterinary sciences, we study about the interaction between pathogens and animals. But now with the climate change, when these interactions are influenced by the habitat destruction, then we need to expand our view. We need to think beyond, think further for the eco health. Why? Because wildlife is actually safeguarding the mankind. We all know that, like for bats, everyone knows that they are harboring many pathogens. So this is actually helping all of us. They are the reservoir of these pathogens, and they are just controlling these pathogens to spill over to animal population and further to human population. Then why not to save wildlife first? So this is the picturization of how wildlife is affected, and then it leads to domestic animals and human population. So first case is always there in the wildlife. I mean, not always, but yeah, if you consider the reservoir status, then wildlife is first affected. Then we veterinarians should come into the picture. We should conduct the surveillance in the wild species so as to detect the pathogen at very first, and to identify it so that it cannot be transmitted further to domestic animals and then to human population. So the concept of ex situ and in situ have been replaced by the sort situ, because we all know that we need to share this globe with every single species. We don't have further space. We are expanding and the space is limited. Then how to conserve the wildlife? It is very much clear that wildlife populations need to be managed in the available space. So with that fact, veterinarians have a great role to play as how to do that. And we are very fortunate. I should say that we are blessed to be a veterinarian, because the concept of One Health, and we are the essential elements. We're already taking care of the animal health, and now we are there in the environmental health. So it's our responsibility to do our job in the One Health concept to save this globe or to maintain the health of this globe. So we should take this opportunity. We should grab this opportunity, and what should I say, that uh, we should think beyond and get actively involved. Now there is the last slide, that is the economy versus ecology. This is a very big question. But if we consider the current scenario, or I will just take a very little example here, that is the Nipah virus infection. So what resulted into this viral infection? That was actually changing agriculture practices. Bats are the reservoir of this Nipah virus. And now when there was the integrated farming system, pigs were there in the vicinity of those bats. The pigs, they got the infection from the bats, they amplified it, and then the human who came into the contact of these pigs, they got infected. And then there was the fatal infection, fatal epidemic of Nipah virus infection in the human population. So here also, as a veterinarian, also if we talk about the current COVID-19 pandemic, still it's not clear what is the cause. But yeah, there is the involvement of animals. Then we as a veterinarian need to address this problem. We should we should give our expertise, we should get involved in the epidemiological studies, because we already know the epidemiology of many such pathogens. Then why not to raise our voice and get involved in the policy making? And just we should incorporate our knowledge for the mankind. And this battle between economy and ecology is actually never ending. But for the wildlife conservation, we have a very significant role, and that is identify the loopholes and then ensure the sustainable use of ecosystem to maintain our global health. I remember my guide, Dr. A.B. Srivastava, saying that this wildlife is an ocean, and we know only a drop of it. But what we understand that every drop matters. So your role is very significant to all the budding vets. I would say that just identify your role, and then you should consider yourself very blessed to be a veterinarian. Then it's the time to contribute for the nature, for the global health. So this is it from my side. And at the end, I want to acknowledge Honorable Vice Chancellor of Nanaji Deshmukh Veterinary Science University, Professor Dr. S.P. Tiwari sir, for providing all the facilities to conduct wildlife health investigations in our university. And then Dr. Madhuswami Madam, Director, School of Wildlife Forensic and Health, Jabalpur, for uh, actually acting as backup for our team. And this is the wonderful team of SWFH. And I'm very grateful to them for providing a very comfortable space to work for the betterment of wildlife. And last but not the least, Madhya Pradesh Forest Department for providing all the necessary permissions and funding. So this is the excellent team of wildlife health of Madhya Pradesh. And here we have faculty members of School of Wildlife Forensic and Health, and also the very hardworking wildlife veterinary officers from Forest Department. And I'm very proud of myself to be the part of this team. So thank you very much for patient hearing. And if there are any questions, I would be very happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nidhi, for the good insights that you have given with respect to vets and wildlife conservation. And I think we all have benefited by knowing that we have the institutes at Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Durg, and Jabalpur, where they award the masters and PhD degrees in wildlife. I think we knew 2 or 3, and from your talk, all are enlightened that those who are passionate towards this get pursue their academics, BSc Wildlife, PhD Wildlife, or a diploma. And you have given good examples of other lady veterinarians who are into wildlife. And as you have said earlier, we were just limiting to National Geographic, other wildlife channels, Animal Planet. Now we are really seeing what is happening in India and the role of vets especially. It reminds me of my 1-year junior of 1982 batch, who is now working in Nehru Zoological Park in Hyderabad. In those days, when he was doing MVSC anatomy, he was interested in wildlife. Mind you, I am talking about an MVSC anatomy student in 1987, my 1-year junior. And presently he is Dr. Hakim. He is working in Nehru Zoological Park, Hyderabad. And I can tell you one more example of Dr. Muthukrishnan. He is a professor of anatomy from Tamil Nadu. And he is so passionate in wildlife that he is on the National Wildlife Board and wildlife boards of other states. And he goes into the wild, and whenever the wild animals comes, he is summoned and he is requisitioned for his services. And very recently also, apart from the previous instances, he got grievously hurt on many occasions with bear attacks and leopard attacks. And he had a few broken bones. And right now also he is recovering from that. Dr. Muthukrishnan, Professor of Anatomy from Tamil Nadu. So there are quite a number of other persons from other disciplines of veterinary also, apart from anatomy or like pathology and others. And it's good that lady vets are coming to take up this wildlife. And we should be proud enough that I think recently Dr. Sharma ji from Assam was given the Padma Shri by the government of India. He is an elephant man of India. You all know, I think, from Assam. And his wife, Dr. Moon Sharma, is again professor of veterinary anatomy from Khanapara. So it's a great day, it's a great year, and it's a great occasion to see that the elephant man of India, Professor Sharma ji, wildlife man, being given the highest honor, Padma Shri, which veterinarians can really feel proud of. And we were earlier knowing that only some awards by Government of India, like the Prani Mitra awards, were being given to civilians even. And I know Mr. Pila Ramakrishna, way back in 1988 itself, was a Prani Mitra award from the Government of India, a very high award given to civilians who worked with respect to wildlife and animal care. I think that is also being given now. And veterinarians are now being recognized in this wildlife area. Dr. Sharma ji is the example. So very good insights, and the pics that you have given have provided a great impact just by seeing how many wildlife lady veterinarians are there in this field, and what are the challenges they face, especially what they said with reference to Dr. Krishna. I think we spoke to him 10 days back, and he was telling that he's still recovering from the broken bones that he encountered while encountering the leopards or something. Earlier, he encountered bears. Just going into the wild whenever their services are efficient. And it's good to hear from you the insights. And now I think we'll go ahead with the question answer session. And I request Dr. Iqbal to coordination secretary to please take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, ma'am, for it was a very nice and sensitizing talk because it's a topic related to wildlife. So we have few questions. The first one is that can we identify a species from a piece of bone or meat? What you get from in from wildlife habitat?
Yeah, it is very much possible because there is the DNA-based investigation, and DNA can be extracted from a very little piece of meat or a bone, and then later on it can be identified by sequencing. And also there are many such samples seized by the forest department. Like there was a very small blood spot on the driving seat. So they collected it, and we could actually extract the DNA from that blood spot. And once there were nails of the poachers having some debris, so we could collect that debris, and later on DNA was extracted, and we could identify, yeah, that debris had the DNA of wild species. So right now, it is very much possible to extract the DNA from every biological sample of wild species, but it should be considered that it should be properly preserved, and there the role of veterinarian comes. He or she has to properly preserve it for DNA-based investigation. So there are guidelines like formalin. It is the universal preservative in veterinary science, but for DNA-based investigation, you should avoid the use of formalin. So it is very much possible. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So actually, you introduced us to a term called as SOTA C2, and you said about conservation in both native and non-native habitat. So when you are conserving in non-native habitat, so what are the different enrichment programs you use to simulate the conditions of a natural habitat, and what is there a role of veterinarian in recommending what is that particular enrichment thing, enrichment kind of programs what you use?
Native and non-native. Native, we all know that forest areas or protected areas, but for non-native, I mean that there are many wild animals roaming around. Like you all must have heard about the news of leopards roaming in Mumbai. And then also in our area at Jabalpur, there are many leopards. They are found roaming in the residential area. So now the government is focusing on the conservation of these species in the residential area. Previously, those areas were not marked as protected areas, but now with the presence of these species, government, they are making policies like spreading the awareness among the general public, because leopards, especially leopard, it is going to affect the human population, or because it is very elusive animal and it has the habit to be there in between the forest area and the human habitation, and it is not going to it is not going to attack the human population. So for that matter, if you want to conserve the wild species in non-native habitat, Then first, awareness of the general public, and secondly, the government is doing its job by conserving the natural resources in that area, so as the species can flourish over there and can reproduce more.
So, ma'am, you're talking about the role of vets in wildlife conservation with respect to treatment and with respect to coordinating with the government agencies. So, what is the role of veterinarian in actually coordinating with the local communities who also have a role in conservation of the wildlife? Because in traditional domestic animal, this one we have extension services, but what is that thing which is lacking in wildlife management with respect to interacting with the local communities?
Local communities are there, such as there are tribal communities. They are already living there in the forest area, so they really don't need any awareness programs. So it is actually the general public who are there in the periphery of these protected areas, and government forest department, they usually conduct many such awareness programs annually and weekly and monthly, like Wildlife Week. October's first week was celebrated as Wildlife Week. So during that time, veterinarians, they come forward to give their experiences or their opinions about the wildlife health. So I won't say that there is a lack of any awareness programs. They are already going, but yeah, these are the true wild animals where the wildlife veterinarians are sensitizing the general public. But as a practitioner, when we are practicing and we have a wild animal as a patient, at that time there is the role of veterinarian that they should understand, yeah, this is the wild species, and that's why, because this is wild and you're keeping them as pet, and these problems are arising. So just encourage them to release them back to the wild, or just hand over those species to forest department. So here veterinarians can play the role by letting them know, by writing the articles that they are seeing these species, they are getting these species for clinical examination. So people, they will know, yeah, this is parakeet and this is not going to be kept in the cage. So here veterinarians have a great role to play.
Okay, so there is a question regarding the sites of darting in different animals. So there is so just please brief about the sites of darting to the
Okay.
viewers.
There are many darting sites. I mean, it depends on the species, but people, they want, I mean, the students or any enthusiasts, they want to talk about the tigers. So tigers, there is the thigh muscles. That is the safest darting site. And also in the elephants, the safest darting site is the thigh muscle, because it is away from the head, and it is not going to harm the sensitive body parts of the animal, like eyes. So thigh muscles, it is mostly preferred for darting.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for answering the questions. Now I'd like to hand over to Organizing Secretary again, Kishore sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Iqbal. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi, for the good question and answer session. I think there was one more question. Please suggest ruminant deer management.
Yeah.
Maybe some people may capture maybe illegally, or I don't know, border area people may have deers. So there was a question on deer management. Could you please show some light?
Deer management. Actually, we cannot keep the deer as pets, so there is no need to manage them. But it can be related to the meanness which they create. Usually, because there is the problem with the farmers that wild animals, they come to the crop areas and they destroy the crops. In that situation, again, this is actually the human population which is just expanding and expanding the farming areas. So these animals will naturally come. Yes, now these animals are there to destroy the crop. Then forest department, they do what they do. they manage the population inside the forest. They create the water holes and then provide the habitat management so that the deer they don't come out of the forest. But you cannot just stop deer from coming out of the forest. And it is again the awareness issue. People should understand that just give them a space so they are not going to come to your place, and then there will be no need of management.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's under the endangered species, and only I think the tribals living in the forest areas, they will have some deers. Otherwise, it's not allowed.
Mhm. No, it is actually not allowed anywhere because of the Wildlife Protection Act. So any species they cannot keep it as a pet. Even if they are tribes, they are living inside the jungle, but they cannot do that.
Yeah, true.
Dr. Nidhi,
It's
one
good
thing,
that people have come to know of all these things, and I personally have visited many zoos in our country and abroad also in California. I have seen.
Mhm.
So we need to be very alert. Just please hold on. Excuse me, Tomar. You could please continue. I'm on a
Dr.
call.
Dr. Nidhi,
Sir,
actually
Chappan, sir.
sometimes what we people are facing, especially in the rural
Sir,
area,
in our online.
just 1 minute. Actually, what I was saying that generally we people are facing when that our animals, our domestic animals are going for the forest for taking grazing and all, and along with them sometimes wild animals babies are also coming in the group.
Mhm.
Even when I was working in Puddutur Veterinary College, there one incident happened. One black buck, baby black buck, came along with the group. And now the thing is, as we all know, the wild animal they are not accepting the foreign or this not foreign actually that other groups individual into their groups. So what we should do with those type of animals? Like it came with our domestic animals, they are living with them, but their habits, their all those ecological parameters are different from the domestic one. Then how to manage them?
See, there are few points regarding this. One, you can keep this animal and keep it as a pet because you are providing it everything possible, every food, every water, and that animal is also very happy. So you can keep it. But the drawback of this situation is it will encourage other people to do the same. So this should never be encouraged. In such situation, if they have a wild fawn, that means the young one of deer, then they should uh, inform the forest department. So they will try to rehabilitate it. And even if it is not possible, then zoological park, that is the safest place for such orphaned animals. But rehabilitation is the best. So every time it is actually practiced by the forest department to find the herd. But then zoological park is the last destination. But yeah, never to keep them as pet because it is
Yes,
going to
actually,
encourage. Yeah.
during that incident, what happened that when we informed the forest department to take care of that black bug baby, they told that we will find out some way. And since we were away from the zoological park, that was about 178, 180 kilometers away from the area where we found that one. Almost 7 to 8 days, we were keeping that. And the thing is, since everybody is not having idea, like how to rear them, then we could not even identify what is the age of that individual. So what we should feed them. So I think one question related to that, how to manage deer, maybe related
Hmm.
to type of conditions only when we are not in any kind of situation, whether that forest department will take care
Hmm.
of one or not, or they are asking us to keep for 7 or 10 days almost.
Hmm.
So that management for those type of animals, I think we should have idea being a veterinarian. So I think that was the question.
Yeah, one should have. I mean, as a veterinarian, I thought that this was the question by general public, so it should always be avoided. But if a veterinarian is there, then he should do everything to save that species and to so that the animal can be safely handed back to the forest department.
Because generally forest people are saying that you are the vet, you can take care of these animals more than, means better way than anyone else. So they are saying you keep these you people and we will collect later, like that. Sometimes,
Yeah, this is the actually the veterinarians, they should also aware of the Wildlife Protection Act. Not every veterinarian or not every institution can keep these wild animals into their facilities. So that's why I emphasized over the inclusion of courses in the UG curriculum, so that the students, when they are pursuing their basic degree, they will know how to manage these situations.
and one more question, actually, some of my students are asking regularly to pursue degree in wildlife health and management if we are in India, and what are the career perspectives in future they will have.
Yeah, I already narrated in my presentation, but yeah, I will repeat again. Uh, See, there are many degree programs already running in the 4 universities. So you can pursue for MVSC in wildlife health management. And secondly, there is PG diploma. Uh, Sometimes they graduates, they already have planned to do their MVSC in surgery or in medicine, but they want to have an experience in wildlife. Then there is the PG diploma course, so they can spare their 1 year to learn about the wildlife health management. So these MVSC and PG diploma courses are there. And then for the employment potential, it is now there are many agencies, government agencies. You can join the animal husbandry department and later on can be deputed to the forest department. Then there are biodiversity boards. And now with the current, after this pandemic, the government is actually emphasizing over the selection of veterinarians as consultant in the ministry. So the future is bright. But again, you need to have a passion, because you need to have a patience also. Employment, I mean, you are not going to get the job just right now after you are getting the degree. And it is actually applicable to each of our courses in veterinary science. We have a vast experience, so we can go anywhere. So if you are trying to go for the wildlife, just don't worry. If you are passionate, you are confident, and you are skilled, then you will be absorbed somewhere and you can pursue your dreams. So don't worry, just go for it. But yeah, better be prepared.
Thank you for that what suggestions and things you have shared with us. So I would like to ask our organizing secretary Kishore sir to take it on. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Thank you, Dr. Nidhi. Sorry, I left abruptly midway. I was conversing with our associate dean whether he is available when we wrap up the session. And he is elsewhere in the LPM department, so he will not be available now. Was this question answered? I did not follow. What suggestions do you give from your side for Nilgai coming to fields in districts of UP as they are ultimately killed? What can the villagers do to prevent this menace without harming these animals? That was in the chat box.
So this is actually a very complicated question, because the Nilgai, this doesn't only involve the veterinarians. It also involves the government administrators. So as a veterinarian, if I am there, then what should I do to advise villagers? Then I will ask villagers to do the fencing, the right fencing for the crop fields. And also then there is the concept of weeds. I mean, you can grow different crops surrounding your crop area that can attract the nilgai, but it is of no utility to human beings. So they will be there in that weeds, or you can say the crop which is not useful to human, and it will be beneficial for villagers, that they can stop the nilgai to come into their crop fields. But again, now the second thing is nilgai population control. There is the project submitted for nilgai population control, and there are veterinarians who are working to make vaccine to reduce the population, to reduce the reproductive rate in these animals. So this is ongoing and this will take time. So that is the scientific one. But if you are there in the village, then you can just aware the villagers to make some kind of fencing. There is the research work going on to produce to make fencing that can distract these wild animals. So it is going on, but basic advice would be the same. You just uh, prepare a fencing and do grow some crops or weeds that can attract the nilgai and can save your crop yields.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nidhi. So we'll wrap up this session. So it was a very successful second international webinar on behalf of the N.T.R. College of Veterinary Science, Gannavaram, under the aegis of Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University in India. So I thank the three speakers, Dr. Hari Attagarla, who spoke on the veterinary licensing, American Veterinary Medical Association licensing for foreign veterinary graduates in USA. The second speaker, Dr. Sejian Veeraswamy, who spoke on the important topic, climate change and livestock production, an overview on current and future perspectives. And now the third speaker, Dr. Nidhi Rajput, who spoke on vets and wildlife conservation, the insights onto that. So thank you all the three speakers for being part of the second international webinar series. And I'd like to say that apart from the speakers who are joining via the Zoom link, because we have provided the YouTube live streaming, many people have joined on YouTube. I got many requests since we closed the registrations yesterday at 11 a.m. and advised all of them to see the YouTube live streaming. Even while we are organizing this seminar, there were many requests to be via phone and WhatsApp, and we shared the YouTube link. And we have a YouTube channel, the first anatomy YouTube channel. In fact, the first YouTube channel in any veterinary university in India, and it is a Wild Body Program, Gannavaram, Andhra Pradesh, India, and all those who came to know of this logged on to that YouTube channel and are seeing the live streaming. And we are happy to say that after the first international webinar also, there were more than 300, 400 people who saw the stored videos in the YouTube, and we provide this opportunity for those who cannot, for different reasons, join via the Zoom link or see the live streaming. Many would like to watch it on YouTube stored videos. So that is accessible to you. And now for the benefit of all, I'd like to say that the third international webinar will be on the 20th of October. And we have one speaker, Dr. Srinivasulu Kilari from Singapore, who will be speaking on the personal experiences in a professional journey, an interactive session. He is the managing director for a biotech and biopharma company in Singapore. And the second speaker on the third international webinar will be Dr. Harshavardhan Tripathi, and he is from the University of Georgia, Athens, and he will be speaking of microbiological quality and safety of poultry meat. In fact, he is dairy technology alumni, and he is now the professor of poultry science in Georgia University. And the third speaker on that day will be Dr. Kavita Kongara. And these three are all alumnus from Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University. And Dr. Kavita is the senior lecturer in veterinary anatomy. And she'll be trying to speak and integrate. And we requested her that doing MVSC surgery, she went on to become the senior lecturer in veterinary anatomy in Massey University in New Zealand. And as I have said earlier, she is also an ECFVG. So she holds that international certification to be a veterinarian anywhere. And she'll speak on a glance of veterinary anatomy with the clinical implications. So that would also be very beneficial to our budding veterinarians and clinicians working in the animal husbandry department. So this is the variety of topics that we have chosen. And if time and everything else permits, this series will go on into the fourth and forthcoming sessions in future. So We thank all the speakers of this second international webinar and making this very beautiful, joining in time and giving your insights on these very topics. Thank you all. Anything the first speaker, if he is still on, can give his final words. Just for a moment. Maybe we cannot expect, because by the time he started his session, it's 11:30 p.m. in Texas. So we always gave the first preference to the speakers as per the time zone. And even in the first international webinar, he was from the US, and the time slot we are given in the 10 a.m. time slot, and it is 11:30 p.m. for them when they start. So I think Dr. Hari Hadagarla is not on. So I request the second speaker to give his final words at the end of the second international speaker. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Sejian. Please unmute yourself and start.
Thank you so much for this very good opportunity. I must say that as some of the audience have posted, that it is a multifaceted lecture that was scheduled, which is very, very useful. So I'm also very happy that for being a part of it. And Iqbal, as my contact, is a very close associate to me. So any student who wanted some sort of guidance, or even we are very good at guiding students to abroad, so like we'll be very happy to help them up, because in this field, particularly if anybody wanted to build up their career, so we are here for these budding students for their benefit. If anything is needed, that we are working around the clock, especially for developing quality human resources in terms of quality students in this field. So I'll be very happy to associate with the college in terms of projects and student guidance, as well as other etc., whatever you wanted from our side. So all I can say that it is a very well organized webinar, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sejian, for hanging on till this time. And now I request our third speaker, Dr. N.T.R, to offer our final remarks or comments or views or insights.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me this opportunity to interact and to share the platform with you all. Because I also attended previous speakers, and it was very good to listen to their experiences. And now sharing my experiences with you all, it is a complete thing for me now. And looking to the questions which were asked during these sessions, so I think, people should get involved in this wildlife health management, I would say. And then again, it is a very vast field. So sometimes you are there with your professional veterinary knowledge, and then again, you are being asked to conserve a species and to act as an administrator. So the students will be prepared that, this is a very complicated field, and if they are going, so then they are not just going to treat the animal or to rescue the animal, they have to contribute to the society. So I'm very much thankful to you all to giving me this opportunity and to interact with the students and all the professionals. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to have Dr. Sudhakar on screen. Co-organizing secretary, Dr. Sudhakar. I'm not able to see you. Are you with your video on, Dr. Sudhakar?
Sir, he kept his video off, sir.
Yeah, okay. So we, the organizing committee members, with our associate in as the chairman and organizing secretary, you can see Dr. M.P.S. Tomar, Dr. Iqbal Haidar, and Dr. N.V.V. Harikrishna, the co-organizing secretaries. So it's my duty to thank them also. And as a team, we have done well up to this level. And the stage is well set for the third international webinar, as I've already apprised you all. And I think we will do this still better. So before we conclude, if anything is there, I request Dr. N.V.V. Harikrishna, our co-organizing secretary, to speak a few words.
I thank all the speakers for their good talk delivered by them, and the specialty of today's webinar is, and all three different topics which are very useful for the budding veterinarians to pursue their career, and being the organizing team under the chairmanship of Dr. Ravi sir and the organizing secretary Kishore sir and all the co-organizing secretaries, we have sat together and planned all these webinars in such a way to help the budding veterinarians. I hope it helped the students for pursuing their career. And I thank all
Thank
the
you.
speakers once again on behalf of the organizing committee.
Thank you, Dr. Hari Krishna. Now I request Dr. Sudhakar, another co-organizing secretary, to please give his message or remarks. Dr. Sudhakar, over to you.
Is it audible, sir?
Yeah,
Is
your
it audible?
video went off just now. You are audible. You can continue. And if your video comes, it's quite good.
No. Yeah, I have started the video. Please see, is it there?
Yeah.
Am I visible?
Please. Yeah, you are visible and audible. Please
Okay.
continue.
Well, good morning, all the participants. Here, as a part of the team from N.T.R. College of Veterinary Science, Gannavaram, to conduct this webinars. I am really happy to be collaborating with all my colleagues in conducting these webinars, and I feel it's a very good opportunity for me to be interacting with you all here, and seeing this overwhelming response also from all of you. And I thank all the participants and the guest speakers who have obliged to be as a guest speakers for our webinar. And I thank one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhakar.
Okay, sir. Over to Kishore, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sudhakar. Thank you, each and everyone, the participants, the presenters, and all viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll wind up. Dr. Tomar, please end the meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.